Chapter 61, The Origin of Brainless Prey's First Blood. NXG's duo killed BLQ's Nova Slash. It wasn't too quick, nor too slow. When NXG appeared in their vision, Caitlyn actually had time to react, but BLQG's Caitlyn never expected the remaining duo to follow up so decisively with the quickness at the exact moment Blind Monk's Sonic Wave hit, and they'd confirmed their support wasn't nearby. The three of them chased to the blue buff, and even mid-lane Orianna didn't need to add extra damage. She just learned E, threw a shield for an assist, and secured the kill. Oh dear, BLQG's Caitlyn was a bit careless, Joker sighed. Indeed, his co-host agreed. But in a way, NXG's bot lane forced that first blood by burning their summoner spells in the level 1 fight. If Jarvan can use that opening to gank later, giving up first blood isn't the end of the world. Ha, Wawa wants to talk about Wee's Cow Mei, doesn't he? The other chimed in. Back in the day, a lot of teams used too many resources to gank Cow Mei, which ended up hurting their tempo, Joker continued. Wee's first blood tactic was brilliant. And there it was, the classic, first blood isn't a loss. That kind of brainless praise commentator cliche that later viewers would come to loathe started with these two. Zhang Ming, back in the lounge, listened to them spouting nonsense and could only chuckle. Caitlyn lost both summoner spells and first blood at level 1. That's the worst possible start. How could anyone spin that into not a loss? The first blood King Cow Mei myth was even more ridiculous. Why did Wee's top laner keep giving up first blood? Sure, Cow Mei's solo mechanics were limited, but the real reason was Wee's team construction. Their whole core revolved around Wei Xiao. Their jungler constantly sat in the bot lane, and mid laner Ruo Feng wasn't the kind to solo carry lanes and then roam to help, so it made perfect sense for enemy teams to focus them. Under the commentator's intentional spin, some WE fans actually started believing first blood sacrifices meant victory. Yes, targeting top could ease bot's life, back in Season 2. But as the meta shifted into bloody Season 3, ADC dominance waned while mid, top, and jungle importance rose. We could still rely on Wei Xiao to carry late in early S3, but as teams adapted, Huawei's invincibility crumbled. In the latter half of S3, they didn't win any major league titles and didn't make worlds. Back to the game. With NXG taking Caitlyn's first blood, Blind Monk's jungle tempo became much clearer. For the next few minutes before the quickness came back up, NXG had the initiative. They could continue pressuring bot while Caitlyn's summoners were down, or they could gamble that BLQG's jungler would come bot to countergank and instead create trouble on the top half of the map. Also, without summoners, Caitlyn wouldn't push hard, so even if Lee Sin ganked top early, Varus and Janna in bot wouldn't be under too much pressure with Jarvan nearby. Given that BLQG's ADC was their main carry, they'd likely choose the latter. I'll start at F4 and gank top at level 3. Song Yuan, trade more with Kennen, came the call. OJBK, bro, your big brother loves you, someone joked. At 1 minute 30, minions were just starting to move out of the base, but both junglers had already started on side jungle camps. Jarvan, the purple side jungler, began at the Krugs with help from his mid and top laners. All three shared experience. This was a common professional detail. Don't think the meta was clueless back then. In Season 3, the respawn time for buffs was slightly longer than for other jungle monsters, and because minion waves arrived later, helping the jungler clear early camps wouldn't cost a solo laner experience. The bot lane helped with red buff, while mid Orianna took wolves with Renekton. This opening, letting solo laners take jungle monsters for exp, sped up levels and made lane fights bloody. Shielded by Orianna, Renekton tanked the wolves without losing much health. On his way back to lane after the clear, Song Yuan, who'd started with a big red potion, began thinking about how to poke down Kennen. Balance in all things, he muttered. Pfft, the sound of an ability hitting flesh. When the two top laners met, BLQG's Kennen immediately threw out a test Q, Thundering Shuriken. The poke eased Kennen's nerves. He'd been a little scared when he saw Renekton's big red potion start. After all, there was that old rhyme, Level 1 Gangplank, Level 2 Xinjiao, Level 3 Renekton will take your life. The rhyme wasn't empty. A Level 3 Renekton with Fury and a big red potion is terrifying. But Kennen was a ranged champion, poking a melee Renekton, and that matchup advantage mattered. Renekton's big red potion start gave worse base stats than a Doran's item, and the potion is consumable. Once used, it's gone. If Kennen traded, poked often, and backed off whenever Renekton hit level 3 or stacked Fury, he could safely farm. Feeling that, BLQG's Kennen grew bolder and continued to auto-attack. In the blue side player booth, Song Yuan grinned. "Haha, kid, you're still too green. You fell for that so easily." Kennen, as a top laner with poor early sustain, often had to tank minion hits to trade. Renekton, who took a Q, looked like he lost a lot of health because he hadn't bought Doran's items for HP. But Renekton's Q heals him, and the big red potion could immediately restore 120 to 235 health and give plus 10 AD when used. So the visible health bar didn't tell the whole story. Besides, Song Yuan thought, I've got my jungler daddy. At 2 minutes 40, the level 3 blind monk arrived right on time. "We see NXG's blind monk is heading straight to top lane," the caster said. But Kennen is still at full health. Doesn't look like much of an opportunity. Unlike many LPL teams, who still favored late-game teamfights by farming their ADCs, NXG's move felt more like a solo Q jungler ganking top, which caught everyone's attention. The live chat was puzzled. How was a level 3 Lee Sin going to handle a full-health Kennen, especially when Renekton hadn't built up much fury? What's wrong with this Renekton? The jungler's coming, and he's not even charging fury. Didn't the internet hype how strong NXG's players are? Even a silver player like me knows Renekton needs fury to work with the jungler. Chapter 62, Red Potion Renekton, Level 3 Tower Dive. No fury built, no sense of teamwork? Exactly the reaction they wanted. The one who had fury was the ruthless predator, while Kennen only had the normal amount. If Kennen had been accumulating red fury, he'd have played more cautiously. Besides, we never said we were trying to finish him right away. Shi Zhenyu emerged from the river, dropped a ward to approach Kennen in the minion wave, then slammed Swipe into the ground, damaging and applying a second slow almost instantly. Heh, everyone dies. Whoosh, whoosh. Still level 2, Song Yuan immediately used E twice, diving in with phase. Just as the second cast brushed Kennen's cloak and his big axe landed, the red fury in the Ruthless Predator surged past half. Splash! Ruthless Predator hit. With a clean 1.0 AD scaling, Ruthless Predator was all numbers. Kennen's health bar collapsed as blood spat from his champion. "Oh god, I'm gonna die! I'm going to die!" The BLQG top laner, who had been smugly congratulating himself for taking on a supposed diamond-level opponent while he was king tier, suddenly panicked. Fortunately, under focused pressure from NXG's top and jungle duo, he didn't lose his head. While using his E to create distance, he kept an eye on the blind monk's approach. "Here it comes, I see it. Sonic wave." Kennen's reflexes felt honed to a razor's edge in that instant. Ha! Bang! 2 flashes of white. Kennen's E acceleration couldn't quite get him under his turret. With no better option, Blade Crusher used the quickness to escape. "Okay, the quickness used. I've chunked his health a lot. The rest is up to you." Seeing the opponent spend the quickness decisively, Shi Zhenyu turned and left without hesitation. Song Yuan gave a thumbs up. "Just watch me." In the broadcast studio, Wawa and Joker were baffled by the aggressive jungle play. Feels unnecessary. The blind monk forced Kennen to use the quickness but didn't secure the kill. Because he took minion aggro, Renekton, already low, ended up in worse shape. That's true. BLQG's Kennen can heal up with Doran's blade and his ranged advantage. Impulsive. With the jungler revealed top, Caitlyn no longer has to fear a gank and can safely pressure NXG's bot lane. Then the kill feed cut through the commentator's conversation. NXG, Norsha has slain BLQG, Blade Crusher. The 2 commentators went silent for a beat. Huh? Why was there suddenly a solo kill? Their surprise was shared by the live chat, which immediately erupted. I'm dying laughing. Face slap came too fast. 1 second, NXG top and jungle were reckless. Next second, a kill explodes. Replay, how did the top laner get a solo kill under turret? As a Renekton main, I need to learn this. Ahem, let's pull up the top lane replay, Wawa stammered, saved by the director's suggestion. The big screen flashed the LPL logo and rewound to the top lane. There stood a half-health Kennen just outside turret range, auto-attacking minions to try and heal. Exactly what the viewers had seen. Song Yuan's departure had given Kennen obvious relief. He assumed the pressure had lifted. But NXG's top, who had seemed passive moments before, began auto-attacking the wave with purpose. looking like he wanted to shove and recall. The on-screen clock jumped, 3:09. Renekton's last hit on a ranged minion granted him a level. Level 3. Bang, the familiar white level-up glow flashed. With 2/3 fury, Ruthless Predator manifesting under his turret, Perseverance Potion disappeared from his inventory. His health bar spiked upward, and under the potion's effect, his bloodthirsty beast stance boosted his attack power. Auto attack. Swish! Enraged and red, Ruthless Predator swung 3 consecutive hits. Kennen's health cratered and he was stunned for 1.5 seconds. Ignite burned, and an immediate EA auto attack into ability followed up for extra damage. The seamless chain of autos and abilities pushed Renekton's fury still higher. Another 50 fury piled on. White meat, dark meat, all good meat, the NXG top muttered as he spun his giant axe, dealing damage and ignoring the electrical mouse behind him, Kennen, who was at critical health. He dashed out of turret range with his second E and finished the job with consistent true damage numbers popping up above his foe. Kennen died. 666 scrolled through chat. This top laner's hands are so fast. The quickness, potion, and Red Fury W all synchronized perfectly. Is Renekton that powerful? Half health Kennen plus ignite, and he dies. NXG top is meticulous. He didn't farm full fury deliberately. He attacked at just over 2/3 and used autos plus E to stack fury, getting the red fury Q damage at the end. Of course, Stone and Song Yuan's coordination had been planned. One of Jiang Ming's tenets to the players was simple. Helping a teammate get an advantage doesn't always mean securing the kill. Forcing health loss and burning. Summoner spells works just as well. The Blind Monk's seemingly reckless gank had set the stage for Renekton's later dominance. Kennen, without the quickness and having died under his turret again, fell behind in both level and gold. In S3, top laners seldom used teleport, so Kennen's situation was worse than a similar bot lane problem. The Ruthless Predator combo wasn't quite as straightforward for turret dives as Ruthless Elise, but it was close enough. If BLQG's Jarvan had glanced at the top lane even briefly, Kennen would have been taken down painlessly. With the top advantage secured, the Blind Monk's options widened immediately. Shi Zhenyu reset, cleared his upper jungle, bought upgrades, and then pushed into Jarvan's side of the map. Gank Caitlyn? Not necessary. There were easier ways to make trouble by teaming up with your jungler. Chapter 63, The True Level of NXG. Come on man, play it safe in top. How did Kennen get tower dived and die to Renekton? The jungler couldn't help but spam pings on top. Having played this game long enough, he now bitterly regretted specializing as a jungler in pro play. In solo queue it was fine. People would flatter you non-stop, call you their savior, beg for ganks, but on the professional stage it was different. Teammates demanded jungle resources, called for the jungler whenever they fell behind, and pointed fingers whenever things went wrong. And it was only 4 minutes into the game. Bottom had already given up both summoner spells and first blood, and top had been solo killed at level 3. What could a poor Jarvan 4 do? Scold bottom? Forget it. Bottom was the team captain. It would be far easier to question top. After all, laners expect to be grilled by the jungler. BLQG's top laner felt wronged. I was careful, he protested. Lee Sin forced most of my health. I had to burn flash, and Renekton's level 3 burst plus that big red potion is brutal. He wanted to reply, you're the one who let Lee Sin roam top, while our Jarvan is still camping bottom, doing nothing. Isn't that a jungle discrepancy? He clenched his teeth, but the words died on his tongue. The situation was against him. If he snapped at the jungle daddy and the jungler really stopped coming, top would be left stranded. Better to swallow the insult. His complaints weren't without reason. The early tempo often sits with the jungler. A sharp jungler can coordinate with laners and set up plays across the map. Lee Sin had actively asked Renekton to bait Kennen into range for his engage. Jarvan, meanwhile, did nothing. Even when the enemy jungler showed top, Jarvan didn't pressure bot, didn't steal a camp to deny Lee Sin, and didn't gank mid to relieve pressure. Orianna in mid didn't have cleanse, and with Jarvan's EQ combo plus Twisted Fate's gold card, a kill was well within reach. But when Orianna backed off toward the river, Jarvan lost interest. There's a common fate for inexperienced junglers on pro teams. While you're still farming, the enemy jungler is already everywhere. Then your teammates blame you for not being there when they expose themselves to farm. It's an awkward truth. The laner bears primary responsibility for avoiding ganks, but an inactive jungler compounds the problem. Farming in the jungle can't make up for what the rest of the team loses while you sit there. Besides, you're Jarvan 4, not Master Yi. You can't save the world by AFK farming for 30 minutes. That didn't mean NXG would stop their tempo because BLQG couldn't find an opening. At 5.5 minutes, after securing a top advantage, Lee Sin began actively invading Jarvan's jungle. She too wasn't greedy. He just wanted to take jungle creeps if he could land his Q, and if not, at least force Jarvan's health down. With top already winning and mid ahead as well, all Shito had to do was keep Jarvan pinned away from bottom and prevent him from snowballing Caitlyn. The NXG players were simply stronger across the board. With Jarvan's jungle position basically exposed and neutralized, the rest of NXG could play without worry. This was not the textbook strategic standoff or a disciplined stomp the commentators had expected. NXG didn't need elaborate plans against BLQG. Songyuan, their top Renekton, barely fussed with wave management. He body blocked the wave, held the lane mid, and waited for the next wave. After a quick recall and a long sword plus boots of speed, Renekton used brushes to cancel Kennen's auto attacks and trade repeatedly. Unaware, Kennen watched his health bar fall to half. After baiting out Kennen's gap close and waiting for it to be on cooldown, level 6 Renekton chased him to the area between the first and second towers and scored a solo kill. Top had already gone off in less than 7 minutes. Mid was no different. Yihan was low-key in team dynamics, but his fundamentals and attention to detail were impeccable. By 5 minutes, he'd out-farmed Twisted Fate by over 10 minions. Hitting level 6, he forced Twisted Fate back to base and then roamed to bottom to create tempo. Seeing Orianna in position, Shujing, always full of tricks, feigned letting the wave push and back toward the tower. The next second, he turned and flashed in with a surprise R to lock down Zyra. Caitlyn tried to save her partner, but was launched into the air by Pang Ran's pre-aimed Q. From there, Orianna landed a textbook wall-shot QRW combo that grouped BLQG's bot duo up perfectly. Double kill, GG. Every lane's getting stomped, the skill gap is too big. No tactics needed, it's just pure mechanical outplay. Don't forget the plan. Lee Sin's early setup and jungle targeting started it all. And Orianna's roams were perfect. Twisted Fate got out-rotated hard. While the chat filled with GGs, a one-sided slaughter unfolded on the Rift. Zhang Ming had already expected something like this. In qualifiers, NXG had turned PE, one of the strongest teams in the region, into bots. Even though he wasn't one of the 5 on stage now, that didn't change the fact. The current NXG, unless they met a laner who utterly destroyed them in lane, were unstoppable through the whole S3 season in tempo, teamfights, and macro. PE was right. NXG is terrifyingly strong. Backstage after the short opening ceremony of the preseason, IG, who had come to scout their opponents, didn't hurry back to their small hotel. They had watched the match and each of them wore the same stunned expression. For last hitting, it seemed every NXG member, except their support, was roughly on Wei Xiao's level. Their vision control was flawless, far better than IG's. And their champion synergy, their coordination in teamfights. Xiao Xiao, whose bald spot was getting more noticeable, absent-mindedly tugged at his head. NXG isn't just JM. Their other 5 players are all top tier. Feng Kuai-Long, that's obvious, someone shot back. The replay's right there. You don't need to spell it out. Good thing we didn't get them in our preseason group. If we'd met NXG early, we'd be in trouble. They'd once tried to copy JM's solo Q-style strategy against WE, but it hadn't worked. Zitai and Shadow's mid-jungle duo could at best eke out a slight lead against Ruo Feng and Ming Kai. Pulling off the kind of one-sided collapse JM managed would be a 1 in 100 occurrence. JM's individual skill was absurdly high. There was also a reason why IG struggled against WE's mid-jungle. The two teams had met since Season 2 and knew each other too well. If WE wanted to win, they'd simply starve PDD of farm and make Cao Mei shoulder the pressure. Shadow and Zitai could press on Ruo Feng, then 4-man gank bottom to stop Wei Xiao from farming. In jungle experience, Shadow was far behind Ming Kai. Protecting the bottom lane seemed to be second nature to Ming Kai. On the other side, Minkai, that old fox, would occasionally lure himself into a trap while setting up ganks for Kid. They collapsed too fast. BLQG's big play comp had no damage. It was unworkable. If we meet NXG in the real tournament, how do we even win? PDD asked. In IG, Kid and Zitai still acted like kids, and Shadow didn't say much, so PDD directed his question at the support, Xiao Xiao. IG had finished third in the city championship and were seeded in the preseason, so they avoided first-place teams from the server championship and the media qualifiers. NXG landed in Group A. IG was in Group C. It's hard to say. NXG's full of veterans. They look different in scrims than in official matches. They play aggressive scrims, but when it's official, they're calm as a 1,000-year-old turtle. Until we face them in a real match, there's no reference. Forget it. For now, NXG probably goes up against LGD next. We just need 2 straight wins to qualify. If we do run into them, we shouldn't be scared. We'll deal with it. All right, Lao Pu, we're counting on you. Our bottom lane's ready to lie down. Shut up. If you miss your ult again tomorrow, I'll report you for acting. On the Rift, the game hit the 17-minute mark. The score read 6-2. The gold difference had passed 10,000, and all 3 outer turrets were down. The 5 players on the purple side looked rattled, especially their captain, Nova Slash. The leader, who had been brimming with confidence before the draw last night, now stared blankly and muttered to himself. It's okay. We still have a chance. It's only a 10,000 gold deficit. We're a teamfight comp. If Jarvan 4 and Kennen land their ults, we can turn this. Captain. The jungler beside him was sweating profusely and couldn't stand the denial. He reached out and tugged at the captain's sleeve. Still a chance? The jungler's look said it all. Where was the chance? Was he talking about the 6 Kennen? The twisted fate who'd used his ultimate twice and both times led straight to death? Or Caitlyn, who hadn't finished her second item? All 3 outer turrets gone, the jungle dark and vision non-existent. Their so-called chance was wishful thinking. Worse, NXG didn't even let them team fight. They were constantly roaming, collapsing on objectives and lanes so effectively that if you didn't know better, you'd think the blue side was running 5 Hekarims. The gap's too big. No one's making mistakes on our side. Heh, after this, I might just go back to account boosting. Pro play's not for me. The top laner of BLQG, watching the black and white stream for 19 minutes with his morale shattered, seriously considered retiring on the spot. Zhangming hadn't expected his pre-match instruction to play beautifully to end up crushing a group of kids' esports dreams so harshly. But that's the cruelty of professional play. Either you're a rare talent, like the mid laner named Lee next door, who bulldozes every obstacle, or you pack up and find another path. The game could have ended much earlier, but since this was the first live broadcast of the LPL preseason, and the kill gap was already nearing double digits, a forced 20-minute surrender without even a chance would have looked terrible. Even now, it wasn't much better. Opening the official LPL livestream on your phone, the bullet comments were a steady stream of bot game. Ahem, the gold difference has reached an absurd number. 14,000. That's about a 3,000 gold major item lead per person on the left. No contest. Look, the AD on the left already has an infinity edge. His damage far outstrips Caitlyn's. If Varus just auto-attacks without skills, Caitlyn wouldn't even win a duel. Kog'Maw almost said his old catchphrase a few years too early, and Joker tensed. He'd first heard about NXG from JM's live streams, where JM had climbed to national server rank 1 on YY. Like many, Joker had assumed a strong streamer wouldn't necessarily translate to pro success without understanding how the pro scene worked. He'd been wrong. NXG had swept through the qualifiers into the preseason, and their performance in a professional match was even more outrageous than their streamer hype. Maybe that rumored NXG devil training schedule online is actually real. I wonder if we could use something like it. Even if the deal fell through, goodwill remained. Joker knew his steady footing in the casting scene owed a lot to his former role as WE's coach. He often steered attention toward WE when commentating, and seeing NXG perform like this made his mind instinctively circle back to his old team. Chapter 65, Wolves and the Wolf King. Dragon Vision. After we take it, we rotate to the high ground and end it in one push. Pangran opened the stats interface and checked the gear gap between the teams. Once his mid Oriana had Zhonya's Hourglass and his top Renekton had Guardian Angel plus other life-saving items, he pinged Baron. NXG's game plan was focused around the absurdly fed Renekton in top, pressure the lane that had lost, punish the Kennen when he roamed, and collapse on the bottom lane when the enemy Hecarim came up to help. They shoved lanes, secured jungle vision, and denied the enemy any chance to contest dragons. They'd barely been in any big fights. Shujing, watch yourself. Got it, no problem. For the dragon, this old man gives you permission to go follow our jungler first, Shujing said in a mock grand tone. 20 minutes is too long to endure. Dragon buff doesn't even add pushing power. We can still take the high ground without it. You're getting arrogant again, kid. Mingay might teach you a lesson after the match. Hey, no, just talking trash. With things so heavily in their favor, the players relaxed a little while recalling to buy. Shujing wasn't wrong. With the current gold lead and the strength of Season 3 turrets, a direct high ground push was perfectly feasible. Still, the coach had told them before the match to make their professional debut as clean as possible. Considering the purple team's top, jungler, and support ultimates could still affect a high ground engagement, NXG chose not to all in on breaking the inhibitor immediately. Their focus remained on outer turrets and jungle control. Sometimes leaving an inhibitor up widens the economic gap more than taking it down early. Mingay had told Pangran during strategy sessions, a line that stuck with him. While he had been a ladder player who chased kills and gold, Mingay already counted income from super minions. With a single command, NXG created a scene that made viewers' scalps tingle. All 5 players recalled at once, swapped items, and filled their inventories with Farsight wards. Everyone except Song Yuan, top with the most gold, bought 1 control ward because of limited item slots. The rest carried a control ward and a stealth ward each. Vision established, the jungler and support moved forward. Renekton shoveled the bottom wave up to the enemy outer turret and then vanished. Varus cleared mid alone, but stopped once the minions crossed the center line. Only occasional long-range piercing arrows flew from the fog to thin out the enemy caster minions. From the purple side's perspective, the map was dark and their lanes were shoved. They rarely saw more than a single arrow disappearing into the gloom. The match on the field was winding down, but the livestream chat and forum threads exploded. BLQG can't play. The jungle is totally blind, all lanes shoved in, they can't leave their turrets. The left side's macro is immaculate, no openings whatsoever. Those 2 kills they got were from tower dives where they traded. Is this professional league? It's brutal. Hey, show your rank before you talk. Anyone from BLQG could curb stomp you in solo queue. In pro play, you see the difference. The purple team look like high solo queue players with good coordination. NXG over there, a real pro outfit. From the first minute, no one on NXG has overextended. Look at the 5 BLQG guys, their faces are bright red. Don't laugh, you'd be red too. Watching pro play makes you feel cured of your ranked addiction. NXG is like a wolf pack. The commander gives an order and everyone executes perfectly. Wolf pack, then JM is the Wolf King. In the final moments, perhaps pride overcame fear. Not wanting their debut to be a humiliation, BLQG decided to contest the dragon and force a fight. Commendable courage. Wawa and Joker, commentating on stage, praised the attempt. And then, nothing. The red side jungle vision belonged entirely to NXG. Every movement of the purple champions was visible. Jarvan and Kennen couldn't find a proper flank. A perfect engage ultimate was impossible when every approach was watched. As soon as Jarvan dove in with his combo, Lee Sin countered him and shoved him back, and both Jarvan and Kennen had to burn their escapes, only to be met by Janna and Oriana's layered crowd control. The equipment gap told the rest of the story. Kennen, who had been threatening to carry, couldn't make an impact. On the big screen, Ultimate Renekton, blade flashing and fury up, chased down BLQG's 2 carries alone, while the remaining 3 were shut down by Oriana and Varus. NXG's Oriana was so well farmed that her ball control left Varus with little to do despite his 3.5 items. In contrast, Caitlyn, the resource focus of the purple team, had only Infinity Edge and Phantom Dancer. She hadn't completed Last Whisper, and her attacks barely scratched Song Yuan's Renekton. Mid's Twisted Fate, whose ultimate had been ornamental all game, could only pull out a gold card to buy a few seconds for his AD. His contribution to the fight was limited. Ace. The crisp announcement of a team wipe echoed through the venue. The crowd roared, applauding enthusiastically. Some attendees, watching an esports match live for the first time, were swept up in the energy and cheered too. NXG, 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 a flawless ace, and the Dragons secured. NXG no longer hesitated. They pushed all the way, smashing through the high ground turret and inhibitor before the purple team respawned. In the end, BLQG still couldn't stop NXG. All 5 NXG players moved like one, straight for the Nexus. The Nexus has been destroyed. Congratulations to NXG. The audience gave continuous cheers and applause, awed by NXG's disciplined, instructive play style. They were strong, their team play was a clinic, and importantly, you could actually learn something from watching them. NXG's owner, JM, had been posting advanced plays and tactical breakdowns online. Seeing a streamer who taught well, then form a team to prove his methods on stage, made the victory feel even more satisfying to the crowd. Woohoo! We got it! Nice brothers, we're in the promotion zone. On the stage, the NXG players took off their headsets, stood up, and high-fived, celebrating a clean, professional win. Chapter 66, Mental Control. The moment the first game between NXG and BLQG ended, League of Legends clients opened nationwide, filled with professional match news and NXG articles. The featured slots on the homepage were dominated by bold red headlines. 2013 LPL preseason kicks off today. First match schedule released. NXG, undefeated in 6 tryouts, in the spotlight. On-site audience says NXG's team bus is incredibly eye-catching. Team bus, head coach, uniforms, sponsors. How many more surprises can NXG bring? Preseason opener result, complete route, NXG shows terrifying tactics. NXG, the LPL's own M5. In an internet cafe in Modu, a young man about to queue for ranked play stared at his screen in disbelief. He frantically screenshot the client's featured carousel and sent it to his group chat with the caption, "The client's been hijacked." The Pro League already started? Those in the group who followed the scene closely reacted instantly. Most postponed their ranked games and clicked into the official stream. When they did, they were stunned. What the hell? A 20-plus kill difference? That was a professional match? The LPL operations team had prepped promotional material in advance, even drafts for an upset by BLQG to avoid surprises. Those drafts became irrelevant almost immediately. Jiang Ming and NXG delivered exactly what the ops team hoped for: a dominant victory, a crushing professional rout capped by fluid, artful coordination in the final team fight. Within minutes of the purple Nexus exploding, online discussion ignited. 666. I thought NXG only looked good in tryouts because the competition was weak. Didn't expect them to be this fierce in preseason. They look flawless. Top laner Norsha utterly demolished that Kennen. Honestly, if I were Kennen in solo queue, I'd have surrendered early. Top lane was a rehab center. It's not even 20 minutes. You can't surrender, so did NXG hold back to save BLQG some face? The jungler was everywhere. Yi basically lived in their jungle. I'd be afraid of Yi popping out from under my blanket at night. BLQG's luck is cursed. Wanted to emulate WE, but broke their legs before they could take off. Don't forget bottom lane Caitlyn. Both are challengers. They funneled so many resources to him and his CS was still 50 down. His damage was trash. They picked a big, ultimate-focused comp, but only managed one real 5v5 team fight from start to finish. BLQG played brain dead. No way. It just felt like BLQG wanted to fight but couldn't. They were being led by the nose. Yeah, NXG players never stopped moving, especially after a turret fell. No one just stood around. How did they do it? As soon as the dragon spawns, they're inexplicably there, and their CS doesn't suffer. That's wave management. JM mentioned it once on stream. Here we go. Which strong teams has NXG beaten? PE? Wait till the regular season to see how my WE handles them. WE stomped NXG many times in scrims. Are you trolling WE fans? Get out. Does NXG have more matches today? Yes, preseason runs one group per day. NXG will face the winner of the second and third matches. Nice work. Backstage, Jiang Ming stood in the doorway to greet his victorious players. Heh, Mingji, wasn't our first game pretty good? Song Yuan pulled up a plastic chair and sat, smiling. Very good. You got lane advantage, avoided big mistakes in rotations, completely shut down Kennan's growth, and your target lockdown in the final fight was inspired. What about me? What about me? Xu Jing, ever flamboyant, perked up. His Varus finished 604, and his damage was on par with Renekton's. Ahem, old Xu, my fourth item. Fourth item? Jiang Ming asked. Xu Jing's face fell when he felt his support tug his sleeve and realized. Well, Mingge, hear me out. For the fourth slot, I bought a big BF sword first because there was a Janna on the enemy team and they lacked damage. I didn't want to buy Giant's Belt into Warmogs. That's a reasonable thought, Jiang Ming interrupted gently, but what if you were instantly deleted in a team fight for lack of health and Janna couldn't peel you in time? In early Season 3, the Warmog era had already peaked, but Warmog's armor remained the most cost-effective defensive option for ADCs, cheap and packing a lot of health. I always ask you, what's NXG's core philosophy? Jiang Ming didn't scold him outright, but asked instead. Xu Jing lowered his head sheepishly. Push damage when disadvantaged, build defense when advantaged. Good, you remember. We'll go over the specifics back at practice. Jiang Ming waved off the conversation. He didn't like to harp on things after a win. It would do little good and might throw players off. For now, go see what the audience is saying. Lin Jingyi understood and took the players' phones out of her bag, handing them around. Phones buzzed, and the room filled with laughter and chatter as the NXG members read the post-match threads. Heh, prehistoric giant crocodile. I like that. Told you my quickness combo into the tornado for the 3-man knockup was sick. The viewers have taste. Get to know the god of support. Stone, look at this dude asking if you have a personal grudge against Kennen for sending him to rehab. The purple side got their legs broken. He couldn't outroam Oriana. Changzi, you're turning into a divine courier. Hey, flashy AD, someone's praising your aggressive play. Jiang Ming watched them quietly. When material rewards couldn't be handed out immediately, a dose of spiritual recognition was enough to keep their motivation burning. Sending the players to read post-match write-ups was a small psychological trick he used to train their mindset. Chapter 67. The gap is too big. In the future, many pro teams and clubs would impose rules forbidding players from checking TIBA or comment sections during matches. Jiang Ming thought differently. People see what they want to see, and different perspectives produce very different results. Sure, keeping players away from forums during a match can reduce outside influence on their mindset. But do players really not know what's being said about them? Between the crowd's reactions at the venue and their private habit of checking online, players are well aware of the public's comments. Pretending not to look is just burying your head in the sand. So Jiang Ming chose openness. He treated exposure to online cheers and jeers as part of the team's mental training, maybe even the core of it. Starting with everyday matches, he wanted his 5 players to get used to applause and boos alike. Because of how esports is run, players usually wear headphones to block out noise. In traditional sports like football or basketball, countless champions were made by fighting through hostile away crowds. Strong psychological resilience and will often become the engine that pushes legends past their limits. The two environments didn't start on the same footing. From that angle, it wasn't surprising that so many esports players got rattled easily. If your mental game is weak, how can you hope to top Summoner's Rift? But no rush, Jiang Ming said softly. He had the patience to help these 5 players who had endured his brutal training grow. 10-minute halftime. If anyone needs the restroom, go now. After Game 2, we'll have a tactical briefing. Understood. They called it a break, but everyone just leaned back in their chairs. The conditions for their first LPL match weren't luxurious. The team lounge had no sofas, no water dispensers, no coach workstations for watching live streams, only a few plastic stools, and players had to bring their own water. Compared to Season 2, when players sometimes didn't even have a place to rest, it was better. Jiang Ming didn't rely on the organizers anyway. He'd thought of everything. The trunk of the team van was stocked with water, chocolate, and basic medical supplies. The second match in Group A started after a short transition. Jiang Ming opened his laptop and pulled up the official stream to watch the other teams in the group. LGD versus DD. LGD had long been a household name in domestic esports. Founded in 2009, their Dota division had been especially strong. By June 2011, they'd won the Gigabyte Stars War Global Finals, and they'd taken last year's Gigabyte Master Cup as well. They were, without hyperbole, an esports giant. Yet somehow, their league division always hovered between being middling and unpredictable. In the original timeline, their LPL squad didn't really come into its own until the winter of 2013, when they acquired mid laner Weixiao and support Peel and secured an LPL spot through the TGA tournament. Their later arc could be summed up as a Varus arrow that circled the globe and struck top laner Langex in 2020. In qualifiers, they went 4-2, only losing to WOA Dawnwings and LHDD. LGD's opponent left almost no impression on Jiang Ming. They hadn't made the LPL main stage. None of their players had stood out in the early pro scene. It looked like a straightforward match, a club team that had some structure against a bland, unremarkable solo queue-esque lineup. But LGD did what they'd done so often before. They delivered chaos. On blue side, LGD drafted a heavy teamfight comp. Annie mid, Shinzao jungle, and Malphite top, a hard engage, all-in lineup. It should have been strong. DD on purple, however, dissected it with focused pressure. Their jungler, Chu Yuxun, zeroed in on mid lane, and Zed in mid matched up perfectly against Annie. Annie is short-ranged and immobile. With constant ganks and Zed's aggression, she was isolated and punished. By 13 minutes, she'd already died 4 times. DD took control of the mid-game, even taking Baron and pushing to LGD's high ground. But the game shifted because of champion choices and season mechanics. In Season 3, the Baron Nashor buff no longer included the minion shielding effect, which made sieging a bit different. DD had picked Varus, who isn't ideal at long-range sieges, and feared Malphite's ultimate, and they pushed cautiously, giving Caitlyn on LGD time to farm up. At 33 minutes, in a pivotal Baron fight, DD's jungler V, who'd carried most of the game, made a catastrophic mistake. She led her team into Baron without clearing vision. Shinzao flashed in, struck Vi repeatedly, knocked her up, and the Nashor was stolen. Everyone's attention was on Baron, so Annie and Malphite found the perfect opening to engage. Boom, boom, the blue side turned the Baron fight into a full team wipe. Lol, what a mess. After watching NXG, I can't even watch this. Who takes Baron without clearing vision? Classic Baron throws a game. Is DD's mid even a human? Zed goes in with his ult, eats an exhaust, then gets trapped in Caitlyn's trap and dies. Hokage versus Ninja Dog. The rest aren't great either. The AD has only 200 CS at 27 minutes and didn't buy a control ward. Look how NXG's support is treated. What a difference. These teamfights are so disorganized. Some want to fight, some want to back off. No unity. Next game quick. I want to watch NXG. When the stream cut to LGD versus DD, a professional matchup, casual viewers suddenly understood why NXG had been hailed online. The contrast was brutal. Damn, the gap was just too big. Chapter 68, Preparing for a 4-Protect-1 Strategy. Let's go. It's our turn to play. Jiang Ming timed it perfectly. Knowing no staff member would come back to push them, he waved at his team. Go, go, go. Let's take a 2-0 and be done with it. During the break, the 5 NXG members had soaked up the online praise and now walked with noticeable swagger. Song Yuan, the top laner fans nicknamed the prehistoric giant crocodile, was the most conspicuous. His grin made him look like a triumphant city boss returning home. He whooped, woo woo, and the crowd roared in response. NXG, clap, clap, clap. The audience's reaction to NXG's entrance this time was a far cry from earlier, far more enthusiastic. When Jiang Ming appeared in a suit for the final walkout, the arena's curiosity spiked as if everyone had seen something rare. This is the essence of esports. The strong command everything, some murmured admiringly. Once they'd taken their places, Jiang Ming opened the tactical board and, while the players set up their peripherals, unexpectedly gave a short motivational speech. Applause, cheers, flowers, money, and glory, he said. As long as you win, it's all yours. The 5 young players, still largely untouched by the harsher realities outside gaming, had never heard anything like it before. Their blood ran hotter instantly. Mingge's uncharacteristic pep talk had an effect. Heh, actually feels pretty good, one of them admitted. This match was the third of Group A's promotion bracket. The winners of the first 2 matches faced each other, and the double winner would advance directly to the main tournament. The losers, BLQG and DD, would meet in a do-or-die elimination match. The winner of that would wait for the 6-3 elimination matches on day 4, and the losers' 2013 LPL spring run would be over. Regarding blue and red side allocation, the caster said, because NXG had more time during the mid-match break, LGD, who's playing back-to-back, gets to choose sides. LGD has chosen blue. Blue side first pick, and they immediately ban Zed. That's a rational call. Many players have seen Zed mid-lane one-shot plays in recent compilations. The earliest to pull that off was NXG's coach, also the owner, Jiang Ming. Even though Yahan is in mid now, it's not like he can't play Zed. If Zed's left open, the ADC is under too much threat. If you're not going to first pick him on blue, ban him. Inside LGD, watching how NXG had crushed BLQG had only increased their respect and their nervousness. Everyone was still challenger tier, so the gap shouldn't be huge, they told themselves. But during picks and bans, they were frantically planning how to beat NXG. Their first 3 bans were targeted: Zed, Renekton, Thresh, full coverage to protect their bottom lane. They're annoying. 6 against our 5, it's just not fair, grumbled top lane Xiaoxing. Tao Baoquan scratched his head. What's the difference from an AFK, 4 versus 5? Because we don't have a coach, someone shot back. What should we pick? We shouldn't reveal mid or top first. NXG likes targeted counters. Show jungle first like NXG did. The jungle's harder to counter. Let's still build around Sweet's bottom lane, Caitlyn again, and take a top that clears waves fast without needing to force team fights. Against DD, they'd swung the game around playing through Sweet's Caitlyn. The teammates wanted to copy that success. Caitlyn won't work, Sweet said, thinking. Sweet, who hadn't yet changed his name to Steez, had watched NXG's previous match videos. We can't match their early game. NXG punishes mistakes too well. If we pick Caitlyn, we might never get to push towers or scale items. If we aim for late game instead, Sweet, how about I pick Sona to pair with your Kog'Maw? Sounds doable. They settled on a plan. After Jiang Ming removed Zyra, Malphite, and Lee Sin from the pool, LGD locked in their first pick. Volibear, the announcer boomed. LGD's first pick is Volibear. We don't know if he's for top or jungle, Wawa said, passing to Joker. Probably jungle. Volibear's short range makes him struggle against many top champions. Let's see what purple side NXG picks for their first 2 champions, Joker replied. NXG answered with 2 picks, Jace and Lulu. Jace, huh? That champ is rare right now. Is he for mid? Wawa wondered. Probably, Joker said. He's squishy for top, unless it's a long-range top pick. Jace had been released on the server last July and drew a lot of attention for his 2-form switching and long-range poke. But many players had cursed him after trying him. He was squishy, and landing his EQ combo reliably in mid was difficult. Against the mobile assassins of Season 3, Jace often died before switching forms properly. His popularity surged after Shy's all-star performance, and as assassins were toned down and poke mages rose, mid-Jace became a stronger option. Still, in this meta, against squishy champions that burst you down, Jace's chip damage could be insufficient. So either he'd act as a counter to mid-mages, or he'd go top to poke from range. After pick rights exchanged, NXG revealed a soft support in the bottom lane, Lulu, and LGD quickly locked in Kog'Maw and Sona for their second and third picks. Preparing for a 4 protect 1? Jiang Ming muttered when he saw the Kog'Maw and Sona portraits, a little helpless. Indeed, a region's playstyle isn't formed overnight. Starting with WE, teams had pushed to find ways to beat each other by heavily strengthening the bottom lane, sometimes ignoring broader meta shifts. LGD's plan, protect and carry for the hypercarry ADC, was a familiar regional strategy. Author's note, I couldn't find a clear record of who LGD's top laner was in the 2013 preseason. Chapter 69, The True Origin of LPL's Strategic Dilemma. The historical origin of the LPL's bottom lane core tactical system and the source of its strategic predicament both trace back to the last 2 years. Initiative of the game was generally slow, and the top lane, mid lane, and jungle roles were dominated by supportive, utility-focused champions. After Caedrel was nerfed into an underperforming pick, teams no longer had reliable ways to one-shot squishy targets. By the time fights broke out, AD carries usually had time to complete their attack damage, attack speed, and armor penetration builds. WE, as an early pioneer, took IPL 5 with a strategy built around the bottom lane. Combined with the spectacle of Wei Xiao's overwhelming AD carry performances in those brutal early esports days, successors rushed to imitate them. That tactical understanding trickled down from the pros to grassroots play. Countless beginner guides recommended AD carries because they were easier to play, and on the latter, about 70% of matches prioritized bottom lane resources. Royal Club's ultimate 4 Protect 1 at the S3 World Finals marked the peak of the LPL's dependence on the bottom lane. When the region's combat focus centered there, players, by coincidence, fell into a kind of game theory trap. If every team's bottom lane is anomalously strong and every opponent funnels mid, top, and jungle resources to punish bot, what is the best response? Simple. Join the bottom funnel and secure those resources. For a long time, an LPL team's strength was judged by the quality of its bottom lane. Then assassins rose in S3, slicing through the LPL's tactical foundation. They reduced the game's strategic depth and directly dismantled the AD carry's status. The region's competitiveness suffered, and even after later patches, the bottom lane's importance was relegated to the kids' table for years. With that mismatch in strategic value, it became delusional to try to win a championship by relying solely on the bottom lane. Zhang Ming's early pick of top lane Jace was meant to change the region's habits and one-dimensional style, to show teams that there are many ways to win, not just mindlessly protecting the bot and waiting for team fights. Hecarim, Kha'Zix. Zhang Ming read LGD's draft at a glance. Having decided they couldn't win the top, mid, and jungle matchups, LGD deluded themselves into thinking they could drag the game to late with Kog'Maw in the bottom. Since they liked AD carries, Zhang Ming planned to show them how to punish that mentality in multiple ways. The best protector for Kog'Maw on blue side, Lulu, had been taken, so they were left with only Sona. With Hecarim and Kha'Zix in the jungle and mid slots, Kog'Maw would be terrified to even farm. LGD's last 2 picks were Rumble and Rise. Zhang Ming slapped his forehead, still a bit surprised at how poor the opponent's draft sense could be. When he saw Kog'Maw and Sona, he'd assumed LGD wanted a 4 Protect 1. But with Lulu gone and their desire for initiation, they'd chosen Sona instead of Janna. Then adding Rumble and Rise, both solo laners who also need farm, left him speechless. This wasn't even a 4 Protect 1. Rise needs to develop, Kog'Maw needs to develop, and Rumble needs to develop. Who is the jungler supposed to help? Most critically, LGD's composition had almost no synergy, no real protection or initiation. AD carry pick Graves, Zhang Ming called. Shito, watch for ganks. Top and bottom are both easy to break, he added. All right, Mingji, came the reply. With that, both teams' compositions were confirmed. Blue side LGD, top Rumble, jungle Volibear, mid Rise, bottom Kog'Maw plus Sona. Red side NXG, top Jace, jungle Hecarim, mid Kha'Zix, bottom Graves plus Lulu. As the matchups flashed on the big screen, the crowd in the livestream chat lit up. Why did NXG pick a useless champ like Jace? Is the left side a brawler comp? How will they fight when Volibear gets tanky late? Graves got nerfed so much. Why are people praising this team? Blue side wins. Volibear's the front line. Sona and Rumble ult combo can wipe teams, and Rise and Kog'Maw will clean up from the back. Clean up? Dream on. Viewers with a bit more game sense scoffed. While NXG's composition wasn't obvious at first glance, it was definitely stronger than the opponent's lineup that relied entirely on having Kog'Maw show up and perform in the late game. Remember this, JM has come up with so many strategies, top lane Jace might be a new god-tier solo queue pick. While the LPL audience and onstage casters debated if the drafts made sense, halfway around the world in the OGN building, CJ's training room was calm and spacious compared to most teams. Madlife sat at his desk, his face serious as he watched the LPL preseason stream. He muttered to himself, parsing each pick. Jace's long-range damage, Kha'Zix evolving W can replicate that effect. Oh, and Graves, ultimate matters too. As his thoughts sharpened, his brow tightened. Blue side lacks initiation. Once they drop below a certain health threshold, Hecarim can charge in, and Kha'Zix cleans up. It clicked. That's how it works. What's how it works? Shy, sitting nearby, took off his headphones. Mingi, you've been mumbling to yourself. What are you watching? Not porn, Madlife replied, half amused. Sang Myun, look at this. He pointed at the screen. NXG. NXG? That name is familiar. Naf Shy said, thinking. Isn't that an LPL team? Yeah, we talked about them before. Their mid laner, well, the team owner, beat Wii's four-man squad in solo queue and climbed to #1 on the national server in the LPL. When Wii's name came up, Shy snapped to attention. He remembered last year's Dragon Tiger Cup vividly. The WE bot lane stomped and pulled off a 1v3 highlight. Many OGN teams still treated WE as a benchmark opponent at this time. Is JM playing pro? Shy asked, eyes bright. He'd heard of this mechanical monster who dominated solo queue and even outplayed pro players. Not exactly. He started his own team and plays in the LPL, Madlife said. Running your own team? That's bold, Shy remarked. Madlife smiled faintly but steered the conversation back. I need you to look at NXG's champion choices. You're a top laner. Without considering team fights, what do you think of Jace top? Jace? Shy's eyes lit up. Against melee champions, he's not a problem at all. Long-range poke and burst. There aren't many top lane champions who mix poke and melee dueling like him. This is a very good idea. He pulled a chair over to sit with Madlife and leaned in to watch the draft unfold. Chapter 70, The True Gap in Game Understanding. Charge, charge, charge. Leaving base slowly at level 1 means half the game is already lost. As the match began, LGD's voice chat erupted. Support NT was firing off pings on the enemy's bottom half of the map. Last game we were slow out of base and DD ambushed us. This time we invade proactively. Tao Baoquan's Volibear has his passive. He's incredibly tanky at level 1. We just need to focus one of them down. Don't go mid, stick to lane. NT's plan was textbook. Volibear flips someone with the quickness, Rise roots them, and Rumble, Kog'Maw, and Sona clean up from behind. It sounded perfect, except for one overlooked detail. They're leaving base faster than us, by a second or two. Joker immediately named the real problem. To win a level 1 fight, you have to leave base faster than your opponent. NXG's 5 players bought and left a second or two ahead, and their fixed starting route saved another heartbeat. That 3 or 4 second lead could decide who ambushed whom. LGD's 5 are grouped bottom. Song Yuan, Stoneman, both of you invade their blue buff. Pangran, who'd arrived first, planted a defensive ward and caught sight of the sneaking LGD players. Are we swapping jungle starts? He asked. Top Hecarim and Jace moved in sync toward the blue side's upper half. Let's see. Xu Jing will give vision with his body for a bit. Don't level anything yet. We see LGD's 5 moving from lane to river at level 1. Looks like they want to invade NXG's bottom jungle. But they've already been spotted by the ward. Wawa chuckled. This is exactly why being slow out of base costs you so much. With their vision exposed, Pangran slid into the triangle brush behind his inner turret. Xu Jing's Graves positioned himself at the edge of vision and body blocked. As Volibear advanced, Xu Jing kept his distance just far enough that Volibear couldn't land a quickness flip. Managing ability ranges, especially against a flip, was deceptively technical and something he'd practiced until it felt reflexive. Ming Gei joked that some people thought kiting and auto-attack range was just a matter of talent. It wasn't. It was practice. Engage, 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 came the call from LGD. Tao Baoquan, what are you doing? Go on Graves. Not enough range, Tao Baoquan roared. What if their Graves took quick draw at level 1? I'd be dead. Lulu's not visible either. She's probably hiding in brush. Retreat, retreat. Spectator chat lit up with scorn. Are LGD's 5 players idiots? They were so slow out of base but still want a level 1 team fight. This is why we miss rank climbing, because of people who leave late. Volibear's scared. He won't even quickness flip when Graves is right there. One quick draw upstairs and they'd be in trouble. Look at the top. Jace's ward's already at the Wolves' crossroads. That's NXG teamwork for you. If one lane spots danger, the other reacts immediately. They don't sit and do nothing. That's what being a pro team is, coordination, not just chaotic fighting. LGD's top and mid players, having recalled, cautiously checked their upper jungle. 2 electro harpoons missed and Little Star Rumble fell a touch out of rhythm. Are they swapping jungles? It's better if they don't, someone muttered. Tao Baoquan had reached Stoneman's camp and was ready to start Stoneman, sharing experience with the duo lane. Help me hit the buff for a bit, he said. Star, freeze the top lane. I'll gank you at level 3. Jace heading top instead of mid felt reckless, especially when the 1 minute 40 mark hit and jungle monsters respawned. Kha'Zix, who'd taken W at level 1, fired an energy shot into the F4 pit. Jace, after an empowered auto, quickly transformed and used E to finish the small monster. In this patch, level 1 minions arrived later, so many players took a jungle camp or two before heading to lane. That extra experience from monsters sped up leveling and made all-ins at level 2 common. The duo lane helping the jungler and mid helping top at the start had been popularized by Jiangming's streams at season's end. That approach had become standard in pro matches. The teams that invented the method also refined it, planning gank paths based on which jungle camps were taken. Hecarim starting at Wolves, then running through F4 to Red and clearing the upper jungle could hit level 3 perfectly for a top gank. Songyuan, remember to freeze the lane. Stoneman warned. For Hecarim to gank, he needed E at level 3, which meant sacrificing 2 levels of Q damage and a slower clear, so pre-game communication mattered. Songyuan nodded. His Jace had taken E at level 1 and was walking from F4 toward top, perfectly set to hold the lane against Rumble's push. All right, minions are on their way. Jungle monsters have spawned. Rumble and Rise cleared 3 wolves together. Purple Jace had Kha'Zix help with the little F4 monster. That's when Wawa and Joker both noticed something off. Even though both sides had cleared jungle and reached lane at roughly the same time, Jace arrived at top before Rumble and began body blocking the blue side minion wave. When Rumble tried to step up from the river to claim experience from the colliding wave, Jace shoved him away. What kind of play is this? Little Star exploded. Who puts a point in Jace's E at level 1 just to get to lane early and deny minion experience? Jace didn't need to last hit to soak XP. He could stand there and level up while Rumble starved. If Rumble fell behind, he'd be looking at a level 2 versus level 1 disadvantage later. Bang, an electro harpoon forced Rumble back. Star pushed forward and threw a second harpoon, finally snagging the nearly dead melee minion. Lose 1, get 1. Acceptable. If Rumble hadn't taken E at level 1, he might have lost all 3 minions. Meta adjustments and coaching mattered. The team that controlled small details like this could tilt lane dynamics significantly. Top Esports looks rusty today. It's a reminder, an excellent coaching staff can change a lot. It's the last day, brothers. Please vote for me if you haven't yet. Chapter 71, Shelving Announcement. As the title says, at 12 a.m. tonight, the 1st, this book will officially go live. Thank you to all the readers for your support. This story has come much further than I ever expected. On launch, there will be a huge update of 40,000 words. That's the equivalent of 20 of the current updates. I originally planned 15, but 2 generous patrons sponsored extra and added 2 more. If you break that into 4,000-word chapters, it's 10 chapters plus extra content. Based on the current back-end numbers, which are over 10,000, I'll add more if the initial subscriptions hit certain milestones. If launch day subscriptions reach 8,000, I'll add 2 more chapters. With half a day of small promotional pushes tomorrow, if it reaches 10,000, I'll add 1 additional chapter on top of that. After this, daily updates will be no less than 7,000 words. The S3 storyline requires match research and a lot of watching replays, so it's relatively time-consuming. I won't rush it. I don't want the quality to drop. A few words about the main story. The theme of this book is taming the entire league, so the scope will expand from leading the team to championships to investing and growing the club, and eventually influencing the rules and structures that shape the whole esports scene. There's a lot to write about. Because the focus is on taming, part of the fun will be manipulating or PUAing the rebellious players and steering them away from their original world trajectories. If you have ideas, leave a comment. P.S. Save your monthly votes for the 1st. I'll be working hard on the updates, and rewards are always welcome. Join the group to help urge updates. A little nudge never hurts. Below is the sacrifice list. LOL. Just turned 18. Let me stage a comeback. League, tricked into North America, returning to dominate the esports scene. Peninsula, this succubus gets close with billions. LOL, plus Korean entertainment route. Infinite bone root enhancement, killing until invincible in the human world. Doom Mount Blade, Heavenly Dynasty Lord, whose fortune is written on their forehead. My version is always 1 level higher. Phew, got the lane pulled. Song Yuan finally exhaled. He'd only just learned this lane manipulation trick from Ming Ji, specifically designed to gank top laners who pushed too far, and he still wasn't completely confident with it. He tapped the ping. Level 3, you can gank. Jiang Ming, watching from behind, nodded with satisfaction. By drawing the blue team's minion aggro so two of their melee minions fought one of theirs, they'd force the wave into a quick shove that would slow push back toward their side around the 3-minute mark. That would leave the wave close to NXG's side, but not under the enemy turret, a perfect setup to catch a forward rumble. In S3, you couldn't control minion waves as easily as in later seasons. Everyone needed to clear jungle camps before laning. So unless the top laner had built-in move speed, manipulating a wave like that was difficult. In this game, they had a little help. The enemy rumble threw an extra E at the wrong time, as if worried Song Yuan wouldn't hit the sweet spot. Coming. Shi Jianyu's level 3 Hecarim arrived in the river at 3 minutes and 2 seconds on the clock. Jace had frozen the new top wave on their side, exactly as planned. Devastating Charge was already being charged, and the quickness was lit. While junglers in S3 still debated whether to take certain summoner spells, NXG's preparation under Jiang Ming meant there were no arguments. She timed the charge to keep the ganks sudden and uninterruptible. Suddenly, Jace exploded into action. In lane form, he hit Rumble with an EQ poke, transformed into hammer form, and smashed. Rumble blinked, confused. Before he could react, Hecarim slammed in, used his mobility and ghost to close the gap, and kicked him back. A flurry of autos and abilities followed. The little mech let out a scream and went cold. First Blood and 400 gold went to Jace. First Blood. NXG, Norsha killed LGD star, the system announced, and the two studio commentators immediately pivoted their attention from the bottom lane to the top. The camera showed only chaos, dead minions, a scattered ward, and a top laner who had been caught out. By the time LGD's jungler, Tao Baoquan, had cleared a couple camps in his top jungle and headed back toward bottom to trouble Graves, Pang Ran and Xu Jing had already pushed and pulled the lane subtly away. Top again? NXG really loves ganking top, one viewer typed. Why not bot? Shouldn't Kog'Maw be the priority? Someone else asked. It's like NXG's early game ignores the bottom lane. Top, mid, and jungle do the work while AD farms. Even support roams sometimes, but somehow their bot always farms fine and wins teamfights later. Because the qualifier matches hadn't been broadcast widely, NXG's unusual macro hadn't been noticed yet. Now, with the LPL preseason stream, people who'd seen bits of the qualifiers suddenly connected the dots. They were seeing a distinct style, relentless early pressure through top mid-jungle coordination and ruthless objective control. Back in the game, LGD's other lanes weren't doing great either. Ryze in mid was trying to bully Kha'Zix with range, but once Kha'Zix hit level 2 and got leap, a single jump-in combo left the Ryze, who started with a Sapphire Crystal half-health. Mid Kha'Zix with E and W scaling hard could punish every misstep. Bot looked relatively fine. Kog'Maw's range meant Graves couldn't bully him out early until he got items. At level 1, Graves only managed to trade Qs, relying on Lulu's shield and Sona's heals to keep his lane alive. For a few minutes, both teams settled into farming. Many viewers relaxed. This wasn't going to be a total stomp, they thought. But even during calm phases, NXG's advantage was quietly growing. The most obvious sign was CS. Graves in the bottom lane barely missed anything, as usual. No wonder his items came online so fast. The other lane's basics were strong too, even mid-Kha'Zix outfarmed Ryze. More alarmingly, Hecarim's jungle clear count was far ahead of Volibear's. How long has it been? He's ahead by 14 camps, one commentator said, bewildered. The answer was simple. NXG had been stealing and timing jungle camps while LGD's attention was split. Song Yuan only needed to fake a ward in lane to help Hecarim scout Volibear's location. When Volibear tried to gank, Hecarim would be clearing respawned camps on the other side. The ebb and flow of vision and timing left Volibear constantly 2 or 3 camps behind Hecarim, and that translated directly into a farm and level lead, not to mention a dragon or two. Mid snowballed the same way. Hecarim passed by at level 4 to chip Ryze down. Kha'Zix followed to force Ryze back to base for pots, and with vision on both sides, another full combo landed. Rise lost health and then got hit by a long-range Jace shot from the side. He got forced back again. Being forced back twice in a minute destroyed his CS. When Jace returned to top with Hecarim now level 6 and Ghost back up, plus a level 7 Kha'Zix with W evolved, the top mid-jungle triangle struck again. Jace poked, Hecarim ulted into turret range and kicked Rumble out, and Kha'Zix dove from stealth to finish him off. NXG, Yahan killed LGD, star. Give me the next blue buff, Qiangzi. I haven't built Tear of the Goddess yet, Jace joked. Sure, no problem, came the reply. Abandoning Tear for Brutalizer gave Jace an earlier power spike. The team prioritized tempo over traditional builds. With the kill secured, the squad decided to take the small dragon. Okay, I'll recall to buy. Rumble still has some time. Let's see if we can take the Tier 1 top turret too. NXG's moves were surgical. When they didn't move, they held position. When they moved, they struck like thunder. Their top mid-jungle trio repeatedly targeted Rise until he had to go back to base. When he recalled, they rotated to top, and Rumble's flash timing was just short. We see Jace recalled and bought a Brutalizer and 2 long swords. No Tear for the Muramana rote? The caster observed. That's intentional. Kha'Zix isn't mana-reliant. Jace can take the buff instead. Another dragon spawned. This time, Jace didn't even go back to lane. He pushed into the enemy bottom-side jungle. While LGD were still farming lanes, NXG grouped and took the objective with no interference. The purple team killed the dragon. The 5-man dragon secured a small plus 190 gold across NXG, and more importantly, tilted map control. While LGD's players reacted slowly, NXG's coordination first starved lanes and then rotated to press objectives. Old-school players like Jiang Ming knew that many pros still thought of matches as 20 minutes of laning followed by brawls. NXG were rewriting that logic. Their plan was simple and brutal. Kill, take dragon, push turrets. LGD tried to respond. Rumble and Rise froze their lanes and farmed what they could. Volibear stood behind his bot duo, but could a poorly farmed Volibear and a Kog'Maw Sona under turret survive 5-man pressure from NXG? Gulp. One of the LGD players muttered over voice comms. Brother, how's bottom? Another asked. I think you guys can just collect our corpses, came the dark reply. Chapter 73. Who calls out 3, 2, 1 before initiating a fight? Instead of going back to their lanes, Jace and Kha'Zix both pushed into the bottom half of the jungle at the same time, leaving the audience outside the arena stunned. It looked like that moment when the legendary M5 first showed a split jungle strategy. Wait, you could play the map like that? NXG had already cleared the top and mid minion waves before the dragon fight, and Rise and Rumble were slow pushers, so trading a single lane for 2 towers simply wasn't an option. Besides, there was a bottom duo that had been intercepted under their tower. Shock Blast! Songyuan fired from the jungle. Kog'Maw and Sona tried to dodge, but 3 spheres of void energy flew over the dark wall and smashed into them. Their movement speed was shredded. The empowered shot exploded into them, and both health bars plummeted. Jace fired from the jungle with Volibear providing vision nearby. LGD's bot duo is in trouble, the caster started. Kha'Zix used W first and applied the slow so that empowered shot couldn't be dodged. Wawa corrected himself mid-sentence, amazed. Kha'Zix's slow plus Jace's shock blast made an incredibly difficult to land Q hit both targets. I didn't expect Jace and Kha'Zix to have such synergy. The minion wave's about to reach the tower. Feels like NXG wants to force the first tower. Kog'Maw and Sona won't be safe if they stay. Of course they were in danger. The real question was whether they could escape. Inside NXG's voice chat, the plan was simple. Songyuan, I'll count to 3. Go together. Qiangzi throws W. Xu Jing chips them down. I'll finish with the cannon. Stone will use E to engage and hold them. All right. 1, 2. Before Songyuan could finish 3, Xu Jing, who was pushing minions into the tower, saw Sona and Kog'Maw stacked together and acted. He leveled his muzzle, pulled the barrel horizontal, aimed, and fired. I walk with death, he shouted. Boom, Summoner's Rift shook. The 2 bottom laners, already under half health, were shredded again. Graves was ready. Hecarim, with devastating charge fully charged, didn't hesitate and bull-rushed Sona, who had the lowest health. I'm gonna punch your sister. Haven't even said 3 yet, Hecarim joked as he charged. No one seriously waits for a 1, 2, 3 if they see an opening, Stone muttered. Everyone on the team moved faster than they spoke. When an opening appeared, they took it. It was Graves who started it, the caster observed. The follow-up damage was brutal. Hecarim's engage isolated the support. Sona couldn't even cast her ultimate and fell instantly. Volibear tried to use Q to block Jaycee's entry, but Hecarim's ultimate terrified them both, another voice explained. Kha'Zix dove to focus Kog'Maw. Pangran was surgical. Rather than using W to speed Graves forward, he waited until Hecarim dove in to draw turret aggro. Then he polymorphed Volibear and used his ultimate to knock up the diving Kha'Zix's targets, keeping them in place. Kill notifications popped. NXG, Stone killed, LGD, NT. NXG, Yihan killed, LGD, Sweet. In a flash, the bottom duo was melted by NXG's 5-man assault. As for the tower trade, Hecarim tanked the first turret wave, Kha'Zix tanked the third wave with Lulu's ultimate, and the baton was passed to Jayce, who dove the tower with To the Skies. Facing a cluster of healthy NXG champions, Kog'Maw, now low and passive, had no choice but to activate his passive detonations on the nearest target, hoping Volibear could trade a kill or two. The trade failed. Volibear couldn't save them and retreated back to base with his support. 0 for 3, the casters declared. The bottom tower's gonna fall. Defense towers are like air against NXG. They've turned tower tanking into a relay race. Chat exploded. Amazing combo. That teamfight was a painting. Poor LGD, no one to protect Sona. Kha'Zix slow plus Jayce shock blast equals every hit. I learned something new. Is anyone playing top Jayce? Mid Kha'Zix is crazy. After the bottom collapse, the gold gap widened instantly. Jiangming hadn't cooked up anything mystical. He'd simply exploited Jayce's early power, Kha'Zix's evolved W after level 6, and the window where their poke and burst were strongest, turning a 4-man gank into a 5-man tower dive. Jayce and Kha'Zix's poke did the heavy lifting. Compared to a Nidalee mid, Kha'Zix's W dealt less raw damage, but was steady and provided a slow that set up the rest of the team. Using item timings and power spikes to force plays is an advanced pro technique. NXG were only beginning to tap into that potential. Once the bot tower fell, the duo immediately rotated to top. Rumble reacted too slowly and got destroyed by Graves, tethered by Lulu. At 9 minutes, NXG executed another tempo play. They stalled the top tower at about 1/3 health, then swapped in mid Kha'Zix. When the bald mid laner arrived top, he was greeted by a cozy embrace from NXG's mid, jungle, and support trio. Same recipe, different lane. The tower fired evenly, Hecarim tanked, Kha'Zix dove for the kill, and Lulu ulted to stop any trade. Even if Tao Baoquan tried to countergank top, he only arrived in time to collect Ryze's corpse. Kill feeds. NXG Yihan killed LGD JSC. NXG Norsha killed LGD Star. When top was dove, Rumble, who'd rotated bottom, was solo killed by Jayce without tower cover. "I'll be damned," Tao Baoquan muttered. He was scrambling like a firefighter, unsure where to go. Wherever he moved, NXG seemed to have vision. He finally bought an Oracle's elixir, but found only scattered wards and little time. With Rumble dead, the third dragon that was about to spawn couldn't be contested. "Protect my farm. If Kog'Maw gets strong, we still have a chance," Sweet told his teammates. Their team is all AD. They can't handle Volibear. Tao Baoquan looked down at his own item pile, then at Jayce, Yumu's Ghostblade, and the Black Cleaver. Maybe, just maybe, they really couldn't deal with him. "Damn it," Tao swore. "Why?" someone asked. "They're all AD, and I accidentally bought a null magic mantle." He kicked himself. Pangran pinged the top tower and typed, "Take top, buy items, then push mid." In Season 3, the map had fewer jungle camps and dragon spawns slower, resources were scarce. To snowball, you either killed enemies or took towers. LGD had better defense than BLQG. You couldn't just dive towers without consequence. NXG, meanwhile, had a fast tower clearing core. Jayce, Kha'Zix, and Graves. "She's recalling after killing Ryze top," the caster noted. Kha'Zix and Hecarim split the minion wave and immediately recall. And Jayce, after solo killing Rumble and bot, didn't choose to chip at the second tower. Classic synchronized recall for items and wards. They're about to launch their next offensive. The chat filled with viewers who finally understood NXG's plan. At 14 minutes, NXG's champions, each with at least one completed item, converged in mid. Rumble and Ryze dared not keep farming. They launched a couple of spells and then bolted toward mid as if they'd grown extra legs. Sweet, who had been trying to keep morale up earlier, fell silent. There was no time to think when dodging Jace and Kha'Zix's abilities was this punishing. As the waves met, Jace in melee swung his hammer while Graves' buckshot chewed through most of the blue team's minions. On the LGD side, only Kog'Maw could clear effectively, and that only with long-range autos and his W active. By the time purple minions reached the tower, LGD found themselves automatically auto-attacking the turret or hiding in blind spots and then getting surprised by a cannon shot out of nowhere. They're so accurate, NT's face twisted. She had tried everything to dodge Kha'Zix's slow, but Jace's empowered Shock Blast seemed to find the gaps in her movement. Shock Blast! Bang! Another hit. Hey, another one! Awesome! The other caster cheered. Song Yuan, with blue buff and a grin, looked untroubled. As a top laner who'd practiced many targeted ability timings with his duo, he could read enemy movements. Sona's movements were straighter and less flashy than the enemy marksman's. Standing in front of LGD, he could practically guarantee hits. LGD can't keep this up, said a commentator. Minions are in front, someone needs to clear them, but clearing them means taking NXG's poke. Look at the lineup. Jace's empowered cannon, Kha'Zix's evolved W long range, huge damage. Ryze range is too short, and Rumble's ultimate can't clear minions on its own. At this rate, the first tower's gone. Not just the first tower. If NXG repeats this, you won't be able to defend the second or the high ground. Sona took another Kha'Zix W and Graves' ultimate finished her off. Wawa grimaced for LGD, no engage, unable to touch their opponents, and when NXG's pokes landed, they hurt like hell. Compared to BLQG's stomp, LGD's experience was a slow-burning agony, worse perhaps because they could do nothing but watch it unfold. Of course, NXG's apparent ease on stage was built on effort off stage. For poke to be this effective, you had to be ahead in gold, items, and levels. Poking behind into tanks is useless if their sustain out-heals your damage. Player mechanics, team coordination, timing on grouping and pushing, and especially accuracy of hits all mattered. And the coach's pick and ban had to avoid giving the opponent strong engage like a Jarvan or Malphite that would punish a poke comp. A heavy sound of stone breaking heralded the blue team's mid-first tower falling. Pack up your things. Go back to the hotel early, Jiang Ming told Lin Jingyi, who was still glued to the screen. We only just pushed to the first tower, Lin muttered. It doesn't matter, Jiang Ming said. Losing the mid-first tower meant LGD had lost the initiative. From here on, NXG only needed to control vision, chip away at jungle and dragon gold, convert that into item advantages, and keep pressuring. LGD's only real engage was Sona's ultimate and Volibear's quick engage. If Sona took two pokes beforehand, she'd be too low to threaten, and Volibear's attempts were hamstrung by Lulu. After NXG's poke reached a certain point, they decided when the fight started, be it diving with Hecarim or finishing with tower pushes. Hecarim was a crucial part of Jiang Ming's plan. Poke comps fear a decisive engage, and Hecarim provided strong, reliable initiation plus area control to secure their wins. Chapter 74, the first wave of fan management, requesting monthly tickets. After the resupply, NXG moved for Nashor. Wow, it's suffocating. LGD hasn't had a chance. Yeah, once Jace finished that armor penetration build, nobody on the left side could stand the poke from him and Yi. The real difference was how well they kited on the right. LGD couldn't even touch them. You could feel LGD's Volibear losing hope the moment Lulu polymorphed him. The vision's completely dark. Are they going to fight Baron? TBQ's Volibear got Warmogs, so he can take a hit and push forward, but if Baron goes down... Graves already has 3 items. Baron went down too fast. With Baron, NXG stormed LGD's high ground. Can they end it cleanly? Yai's already jumped in. LGD's backline is gone. Volibear's passive triggered, but he was wiped in a second. The director cut to a close-up of Volibear's head. His Warmogs looked like paper under Jace's cannon. Ace! Didn't lose a single member. They're sweeping. Oh, Lulu threw a kill as a courtesy. Jiang Ming had insisted beforehand. Under no circumstances should his team clean sweep an opponent. He knew that a new team in S3 would be devoured by public opinion if they appeared merciless. If a situation like this arose where the opponent couldn't possibly secure a kill, the task of community outreach fell to the support Lulu. After all, a support's worth is not measured only by KDA. Once LGD had been spared the embarrassment of a 0, the remaining NXG members focused on the Nexus. 2 seconds later, LGD's crystal burst into blue energy and exploded. Crushing victory. NXG takes down LGD, becoming the first to secure 2 wins in Group A. Wawa's voice rose above the in-house music. They continue their undefeated run from qualifiers through preseason. Congratulations to them, first team from our LPL preseason to clinch a main season spot. Spotlights blinked across the big screen. The beat of the music drove the crowd higher. All eyes turned to NXG's player bench on the right side of the stage. The players hugged and celebrated. Their entry into the main LPL season was official. Nice! We won. We're in the main season. Real professionals now. Awesome! NXG is amazing! In the audience, a lot of young fans stood up waving. In the third row, Lin Fei had his Nike propped on the crossbar of the seat in front. His down jacket's zipper bobbed as he cheered. Hey, old Lin, put your foot down. His friend tried to be discreetly embarrassed, leaning over to pull him back into place, but the cheers drowned him out. Only when the players finally left the stage did the university kids calm down. See, I told you Esports Live is fun. Lin Fei grinned triumphantly at his roommate. Both were students at Shanghai University of Finance and Economics. Coincidentally, they had the day off, and Lin Fei, an avid League fan, had dragged his friend along. All I know is if you keep shaking the chair, it's going to break, Ban Yuzhe said, clutching the armrest. As a Manchester United fan who'd felt the roar of tens of thousands, he was still surprised by the energy of 2,000 people, just with glow sticks instead of beer bottles. It's great, but the venue and some match details feel rough. When asked, Ban gave a thoughtful answer. He'd seen many professional football matches live, so comparison was natural. There was no referee involvement in pre-match checks or player prep, no post-game data analysis in the last 2 matches. Also, shouldn't a pro league have MVP picks or post-match interviews? Our region's new in this season, so there'll be rough edges, Lin Fei replied. It should improve for the main season. He forgot Ban had a point of comparison that stretched back decades. Traditional sports do things more formally. But Ban's tone shifted. The JM you keep talking about and his NXG team, they're really impressive. He's got a deep understanding of esports, team operations, management, game sense. It's above and beyond. Pre-match bans and picks, tactical plans for players. I've only seen those in foreign teams. Lin Fei clapped his friend on the shoulder. Told you it was worth it. Come on, I'll buy you a late-night snack. Perfect timing. If we hang back a bit, maybe we'll run into NXG and get an autograph or photo. They couldn't have been more accurate. When the two walked out into the chill of late autumn, the LED on the Fantasy Multimedia Valley still glowed with LPL preseason. A dozen university students clustered near the staff doors, cheering as a few figures in NXG uniforms stood by the team passage. No way, I actually ran into them, Lin Fei cried, tossing his stuff to his friend and pushing forward. Ban Yuzhe blinked. Ban wondered if NXG was deliberately waiting outside. The match was over, and the event hadn't scheduled any fan interactions. A brand new team loitering at the exit, coincidentally meeting a dozen fans, seemed engineered. If it was intentional, it made sense. Building a fan economy is essential to running an esports club. The players' energy and appeal could be turned into loyal fans, especially early on when the club had no base. Jiang Ming wouldn't ignore genuine early supporters. If they'd come this far to see matches from the start, they were potential hardcore fans worth engaging. Of course, it was intentional. Jiang Ming greeted the little crowd patiently. It wasn't easy to get into the LPL. Now that NXG had won and the organizers hadn't prepared post-match interviews, he would make his own. He wasn't missing a chance to grow the club's fan base. The fans' excitement, their willingness to watch from the beginning, made them valuable. Minge, can we get a photo? The girl in front asked, showing the snacks in her hand like a trophy. I've watched your streams and tutorial videos since last year. Your snack shop is my go-to. Jiang Ming crouched to their level. No problem. Thank you for the support. Players, can we get photos with the players too? Of course. After taking a picture with the girl, Ming flashing a peace sign, the players were prompted to introduce themselves for the crowd. Norsha, Songyuan, Stone, Shi Zhenyu, Yihan Wu Chichang, Sorry, Shu Jing, Support Door Pang Ran. Hey, why does your intro have to be unique? The others teased, when Pangran added a personal flourish. When a fan's photo showed only half of Xu Jing's face, Xu wailed, "Pangran, stop hogging the camera." Pangran just laughed and threw an arm around Lin Fei, the nearest fan. The smell of popcorn clung to Lin Fei's jacket against the cold air. "Cough, cough! What pose? What pose?" "Anything," the crowd shouted. "Door, can I ask you something?" Lin Fei pressed on. "Is that training schedule that leaked online true?" Pang Ran glanced toward Jiang Ming. Club matters weren't always for public ears. "There's nothing I can't say. Actually, that online training schedule is wrong." "I knew it," murmurs rolled through the fans. "There's no way pro players only sleep 6 or 7 hours a day." That was the initial draft. It got taken when the club was being renovated. "We adjusted the schedule last week," Jiang Ming interjected, cutting off speculation. "Is there really hardcore training? No wonder you guys are so strong, more than 10 hours a day. How do you even stay consistent with last hitting?" "Last hitting is a basic skill." Xu Jing, who usually had a flashy persona, answered softly, squeezed between two girls. "Only the first hour every day is dedicated to last hitting. And after that? After that, it's position-specific practice and team scrims. We also do review sessions. During reviews, Mingy points out our mistakes, so it's not as exaggerated as you might think." "Wow, an esports class. Coach, can we sign up?" As photos were taken and laughs bubbled up, Lin Jingyi handed out hand banners printed with QR codes. "If you're interested in NXG and our players' training and lives, follow our official Weibo or join our fan group. The club will post updates irregularly. Tutorial vids and behind-the-scenes content will be shared in the fan group first. When it's appropriate, we'll invite fans to visit the club and experience pro life." "Really? Followed. Mingji, I'm your 10-year fan. Save a spot for us in the fan group. When the main season starts, I'll come to Taikang to cheer you on." "Mingjae, will you play in the LPL main season?" "Yes. You have to play. We're ready to vote for you in All-Star. We can't compete with others, but mid lane still has a chance. Believe in the Ming family army. Thank you. We hope everyone continues to support NXG. We'll work hard to play better matches." The crowd lingered, then dispersed. The NXG players climbed onto the team bus carrying the warmth of their first official fans. Outside, Lin Fei and Ban Yuzhe stayed behind and received a few small club gifts, keychains, badges, stickers that Jiang Ming handed them. Lin Fei squeezed a cheap trinket and beamed. Ban Yuzhe found himself unexpectedly interested in the new team. "Old Lin," Ban said, "next time you go to a match, take me with you." On the bus, the 5 young players were still buzzing, their faces flushed from applause and attention. Laughter and high spirits echoed through the seats. "Hey! Hey!" Here and there, someone would giggle and say, "Do you think we're famous now?" Song Yuan leaned toward Jiang Ming, scrolling through the flood of online comments from the day's matches. "Think we're famous?" "Yes," Jiang Ming said, handing his phone to the co-driver after checking the club account. He looked at the neon lights passing by and smiled. "Not only will the audience start to recognize you, but over the coming matches, fans will grow to like you. They'll bring support items to the venue, shout, and go crazy for you. Like in basketball or football matches? You could say that." From the back, Xu Jing made a delighted sound. "I've never had such a great start." Laughter filled the bus. Through the rearview mirror, Jiang Ming watched the 5 of them take pictures of each other's online praise, their faces glowing with the first taste of fandom. Requesting monthly tickets. Chapter 75. Bro, how did you win? Requesting monthly tickets. The fan interaction didn't take long. A few group photos, a round of questions, and some parting gifts. But the preseason preparation had stretched from afternoon into evening, and the players were feeling it. After dinner, Jiang Ming shut down the 5 younger players' request to go to an internet cafe to practice, shepherding everyone back to their rooms like a line of ducks. Big matches demand big practice. Small tests, small practice. No tests, no practice at all. Jiang Ming believed in steady accumulation over last-minute cramming. Balance mattered. Even if there were another match tomorrow, they should be resting now, not burning themselves out with extra scrims that wouldn't change much overnight. When the regular season started and scheduling was easier, he planned to adjust the team's daily routine. Training could be long and intense without having to turn day into night. The only reason they'd been grinding those odd hours recently was because finding high-rank opponents in daytime queues had become so difficult the last couple of years. Scrims are the best way for professionals to improve, and he wasn't about to sacrifice long-term health for short-term hustle. Back at the hotel, while NXG rested after securing their spot in the main event, the first day of the LPL preseason, and NXG's flawless 2-win performance were already dominating forums and social feeds. Tencent's promotion muscle had pushed the preseason into the spotlight, and everyone was talking about Group A. Pinned threads and hot posts read like a chorus. LPL preseason day 1. How do you rate these new teams? JM's self-funded club debuts, crushing opponents with huge margins. What does that mean? NXG, a super team born in Season 3. From team base to player image management, from off-field regulations to strict training schedules to seamless in-game coordination, this is what Zhang Ming meant by professional esports. Comments flooded in, half awe, half ridicule of their opponents. Out of the 4 teams today, besides NXG, the others might as well quit and find factory jobs. Professional play isn't just high solo queue ranks. I thought Zhang Ming was grandstanding, but he was completely right. Watching NXG versus others is like a challenger stomping a normal queue. Average game 20 minutes, always up by 10,000 gold. NXG should be called Awesome Bro. No, Brain Vessel fits better. The 5 players really play cohesively, like a proper team, not 5 individuals doing their own thing. Even lane was equal, but NXG just pulled ahead. Both sides didn't seem to be playing the same game. Before today, NXG's reputation had mostly circulated in a smaller community. Zhang Ming's promotion during streams, the jungler's brief cameo, and an undefeated qualifier run had caught some attention. But the matches were now featured in the LOL client and on TGA, and millions saw the replays with their dramatic score differences. Casual players who'd only glanced at the preseason push notifications suddenly knew the name NXG. The rise made sense. First, there was the hype. A streamer forming a team seemed like a stunt. Then came the results. Then a leaked training schedule that implied discipline and preparation, and finally the undefeated run. That built credibility fast. LPL organizers, who had already invested in promotion, doubled down when NXG was the first team to clinch the main event spot with a perfect record. A team with a clean image, strong play, and official backing was a media model, and flattering soft coverage followed. For a moment, NXG was being compared to WE in its heyday. Shouldn't we do something more? Lin Jingyi, who'd been working with Zhang Ming for months and understood esports, asked. They were scrolling through the endless praise. No, Zhang Ming said. We're already getting enough attention. Any more, and we risk being overexposed. I don't get it. Isn't the goal to be as famous as possible right now? No. Some traffic you can capitalize on, some you can't. We just need to be quietly good-looking. He sat on the hotel lobby sofa, still awake despite the long day. Esports fans are performance-driven. Praise is fickle. If we slip even a little, the same voices will turn on us. We've earned the attention by getting into the LPL. Now we focus on getting the achievements that will protect the club in the long run. Lin Jingyi nodded slowly. So this is brand building, but from a foundation of strength. Exactly. You have to be good first. Otherwise, it's all smoke and mirrors. Zhang Ming knew there was no shortcut. The players he'd recruited weren't miracles. His advantage was vision and timing. This was a long race. Being the first to break into the main event mattered, but it didn't mean a world title was already guaranteed. Others could pull ahead. The S3 era was crowded with talent. He'd let the external noise blow as it liked. His job was to lead the team to grind and improve. Performance is king. Without it, all the traffic and attention turn into nothing. What about the merch store? Lin Jingyi asked after a beat. They needed revenue streams to support the growing club. We're working on it. Ong Ming held up a keychain as if to make the point. The online shop had started small, but they planned to expand. Peripherals, mice and keyboards, gaming chairs, licensed toys, even factory production under the NXG brand if it made sense. Esports fans spend. Right now, I'm a streamer selling things. NXG is a lucky cat that keeps giving me exposure. As long as the cat stays popular, selling our own stuff or helping sponsors won't be hard. The question is why fans would choose us over everyone else. Linjingi's eyes brightened. She'd finally grasped the logic. Monetizing esports traffic is mostly about trust and reputation comes from sustained performance. The active fans they'd met tonight, those chance encounters through the staff corridor, were far more valuable than passive online praise. Just as Jiang Ming felt comfortable letting the online hype simmer, the preseason threw a curveball. Group B and Group C matches delivered shocks that no one had expected. On January 30th, at the same Huanwei Multimedia Valley Esports Center, Group B's first match pitted IG against PE. IG, founded by the well-known Wang Gongzi, had a long history and a reputation as a powerhouse alongside WE. As such, most expected IG to steamroll the team that had just come up through qualifiers. The result, however, was anything but predictable. For 34 minutes, PE executed a precise draft and disciplined play. They weathered lane pressure from top and mid, and in the bot lane, their Nami and Sheikah suppressed Kid, one of IG's twin stars, so effectively that Xiao Xiao's Sona famously missed her level 6 ultimate again. PE dominated Vision, coordinated team fights, and eventually took Baron. IG was left scrambling. Only their bottom lane duo could be found on the map as PE closed in and pushed toward the base. When the Nexus fell, the shockwaves were immediate. IG had lost. Fans who'd watched IG and WE since S2 were stunned. IG, what are you doing? Losing to a qualifier in preseason. Then a post from IG's owner lit the forums up even more. Wang Gongzi, tagging NXG, wrote on Weibo, NXG Esports JM, bro, how did you beat such a strong PE? A single word sent 1,000 ripples through the scene. While casual spectators gossiped and Dewey fans gleefully mocked IG for stumbling in the preseason, the IG owner's Weibo post shut a lot of mouths. As the son of the richest man who was active online and had actually invested in esports since 2011, Wang Gongzi enjoyed a far better reputation among players and fans in the scene than many wealthy figures in other industries. At first everyone thought, he's just an owner. His team lost to a rookie, a few jokes, and that'll blow over. Nobody expected Wang Gongzi, the kind of owner who never played by the usual rules, to publicly at the head of another club. Outsiders scratched their heads. NXG Esports Club. JM? Who's that? But for Lowell players and insiders who knew NXG and Jiang Ming, it landed like thunder. Of course, PE had even taken down IG, so how strong must NXG be if they'd treated PE like bots in qualifiers? For a second, the loudly boastful WE fans went quiet. If they kept mocking IG now, wouldn't they also be mocking themselves? Managers of other pro teams broke into a cold sweat. They'd been following NXG because of their terrifying in-game stats and performances, but they had never beaten a team generally acknowledged as strong. Now, thanks to Wang Gongzi's reminder, NXG, previously perhaps a mystery, would be treated like the season's #1 threat. Jiang Ming had wanted attention for the club, but not yet. Before his team's wings were fully formed, he'd preferred they remain something like Schrodinger's strong team, uncertain enough not to attract the whole LPL's fire. Wang Gongzi had blown that plan up. Still, it wasn't all disaster. If NXG was solid enough to withstand the heat of more eyes, Wang Gongzi's publicity could open more doors for them. Jiang Ming sat and stared at the on Weibo, feeling his headache start to build. He'd anticipated most things, but not this. NXG Electronic Sports Club, JM Wang Gongzi. Luck, really. Mostly the players performed better. Nonsense. I watched the stream that day. You basically revealed PE's underwear color. What? Trade secret? A name precedes the man who bears it. This was Jiang Ming's first real interaction with Wang Gongzi in either of his lives, and he saw what a force of nature the man was online. After a 2-second pause, he typed again, "Tactics are trade secrets." Then forget it. But it's not impossible for you to figure them out, but it'll cost more. In a villa in Shanghai, a man with swept bangs lounging by a floor-to-ceiling window smiled at the reply on his phone. "It'll cost more?" He laughed. "GM, huh? Interesting guy." In early February, after finishing LPL regular season registration and picking up their season passes, the whole NXG squad returned to base. Everyone outside was talking. The 5 NXG players were the ones who felt it most. Jiang Ming didn't control their internet time, so they all saw the attention. The crowd's cheers and streams of praise after the wins had affected the youngsters. Xu Jing and Song Yuan felt it most. The others less so, but still. That intoxicating high is addictive. Jiang Ming had received advice from a senior psychology professor. He didn't clamp down or dole out speeches. He let the atmosphere ride for 2 days while keeping normal training on schedule. Then, on the third evening, top laner Song Yuan failed to meet his training standards and was told to grind solo in the practice room. While queuing for ranked, he idly clicked a Baidu page and got pulled into a League of Legends live stream on YY. How did I end up in Mingge's stream? I gotta go. Hey, what's this? On his boss's YY homepage, red text jumped out. NXG team is recruiting high-ranked solo queue players. Interested in going pro? Private message the streamer. Any role. Song Yuan froze. NXG was recruiting new members. Panic poured through him as the last few days flashed back. He screenshot the stream text and sent it to the squad's QQ group. After that night, the team's flippant mood disappeared as if it had never been. Training no longer suffered. Every day, the 5 figures arrived at their desks on time, often early. In S3, the road for talented gamers was straightforward: perform in matches. The 5 NXG players were still early in their professional development, newcomers who'd been noticed thanks to the club's operations, and they knew the scene's cruelty. One wrong turn, and someone else would be standing in your seat. A small nudge from Jiang Ming was all it took for them to realize they had to keep grinding. Song Yuan, shaken, even dragged Xu Jing to apologize in person to Jiang Ming. Jiang Ming wasn't angry. A bit of complacency from 15 or 16-year-olds was natural. The flood of attention was something young players without much life experience couldn't handle. He had the patience and the obligation to guide them. Fame had its perks. Scheduling scrims was suddenly easier. Established teams, even from other regions, sent requests. Most of the interest came from OGN teams. Everyone get ready. Today we're scrimming an OGN team. Jiang Ming strolled into the training room in a short-sleeved shirt, smiling. The warming weather made jackets unnecessary. Wu Xiqiang, who just finished his skill drills, looked up. Mingge, want my spot today? Jiang Ming sometimes jumped into scrims, so the young mid asked out of habit. No, you've got special training today, Jiang Ming said, then scanned the players' screens. Seeing unfinished tasks, he pulled the far-right chair and sat, laying a tactical sheet with the opponent's name on the desk. Mid laner Wu Jiqiang glanced and his eyes widened. The scrim opponent on the A4 paper read SKT, more precisely, SKT T2. SKT's LOL division had been established in December 2012, about a month earlier than Jiang Ming's NXG, but backed by Korea Telecom, they'd set up 2 teams immediately. Their initial OGN spring split results weren't stellar, but SKT's system and pedigree were imposing. When forming NXG, Jiang Ming had thought about recruiting enough talent to field a second team. 2 squads in S3 would be ideal for expansion, but recruitment had been brutal. Either players' ranked scores were too low, they'd already been signed elsewhere, or they'd quit the night they saw the training intensity. Foreign players balked. The domestic scene still lagged the OGN in environment, standards, and compensation. SKT, by contrast, had retired StarCraft veterans serving as coaches, something domestic teams still sneered at. On Skype, KK Oma, who'd just been appointed head coach of SKT2, sent a message via translation. Oma, Coach JM, can we start the scrim now? No problem, BO5. We'll set up the room, okay? No problem. SKT had initiated the invite, so the scrim server was set to the national server. As host, Koma didn't fuss with the rooms much. In South Korea's SKT training room, Koma stood holding a black notebook, slightly awkward but excited. All right, lads, cheer up. You're about to face a very strong team, he told them. Don't be afraid of mistakes. Play boldly and learn. Back in NXG's room, the system pinged and the encrypted practice room was ready. Pangran added IDs provided by the coach and invited them in. SKT Impact, SK Bengi, SKT Piglet, SKT Pumandu. Too bad the murderer, the young Comrade Lee, is still tied up with streaming. He won't join SKT-T2 until the end of the month. Jiang Ming glanced at the SKT prefixed IDs and felt a pang of regret. He'd accepted SKT-T2's scrim instead of waiting for KT or CJ because he wanted young Comrade Lee, phenomenal in lane, to be a sparring partner for his mid. NXG still had weaknesses. If their laning was crushed by someone with superior individual mechanics, their macro wouldn't necessarily save them in this high-damage, high-snowball S3 meta. If a lane collapsed and the jungle and support couldn't respond, NXG couldn't rely on macro alone to win. That's why having someone like Lee, who could dominate a lane single-handedly, would have been invaluable today. Chapter 77, Training Match with SKTT2. Please give me your monthly votes. In his previous life, bored and curious, Jiang Ming had done a deep data analysis with a few friends. After watching every LPL OGN match from before S7, he'd sketched out the main differences between the two regions. The most obvious was systemized play, resource conversion, and tempo control. Systematic operation breaks down into three basics: managing resource priority, minion wave control, and jungle control. Jungle control was simple to explain. Except for a few junglers with exceptional carry potential, most OGN junglers thought similarly. Use vision to lock down the enemy jungle, compress their development space, and widen the economic gap by invading and denying resources rather than by chasing kills. Minion wave understanding was the most intuitive difference. OGN teams routinely alternated slow push and fast push to create pressure, forcing opponents into a passive choice between holding the lane or grouping to fight. A typical example was Marin's S5 SKT top lane split push system. Precise wave calculations allowed them to tie opponents down. The so-called borrowing 22 seconds from heaven was just another application of wave theory. Jiang Ming had used similar tactics with NXG in the qualifiers. Opponents who couldn't handle wave control were often played to death. The biggest gap, though, was resource priority management. OGN coaching staffs had strict, almost formulaic rules for the priority of map objectives: dragons, turrets, jungle camps. From S5 to S6, OGN exchanges often looked like give up first dragon for 1 to 2 turrets plus jungle invasion, letting teams snowball economically without heavy bloodshed. Another hallmark was discipline. Once an OGN team decided not to contest a resource, they wouldn't take risky actions to force it. LPL teams historically struggled with that. Even into S12-13, unclear choices on priorities still cost LPL teams games. NXG players had mastered the three fundamentals above. That foundation explained their steady wins in the qualifiers. Against opponents with weaker synergy, applying resource priority, wave control, and disciplined error tolerance felt like blasting a mosquito with a cannon. There were other gaps. Vision strategies changed every season and for each team. Tactical innovation and patch interpretation differed. The psychological war between coaches and mid-game adaptability were real issues. After working with early LPL teams, Jiang Ming concluded the root cause was simple. Early LPL leaned too heavily on individual play. The Muscle League culture exalted solo heroics to the point where players could say things like, "I carry this team." From WE to Royal Never Give Up to Eddie G, star power had masked systemic flaws. Also, a chaotic esports ecosystem and leftover problems from the region's wild growth era had left LPL coaches with little authority. Star players sometimes overruled draft decisions. Finally, club management lagged. Youth training, daily player management, and structured practice were all behind. While OGN had already been setting up simulated situations, like practicing comebacks from 5K down at 15 minutes, the LPL was still emphasizing lane strength. LPL only truly grasped these issues after S7, when domestic capital started professionalizing the scene and brought in Korean youth training and industrial management. Jiang Ming believed this external influence would change the region's trajectory. OGN still led, but his era-spanning knowledge could push evolution forward. It wasn't time to be complacent. His eyes were sharp as he watched champions select. One person's influence had limits. To change a region, he needed others to join, and he needed a higher platform to be part of the decision-making. Mingge, Pangran's call brought him back to the present. What should we pick first? Jarvan. Jiang Ming had already planned the training content, so there was no hesitation. Today's SKT-T2 roster wasn't well known, but even without Xiao Fei, the other players made good practice partners. Aside from Benji, SKT's top and bottom laners were talented. Even a confident AD like Uzi had been crushed in his time by disciplined lane synergy. Zhu Rang and Fuman duo had taught him a lesson back in S3. Damu, the so-called 1,000-year-old monster top laner, had been overlooked by many, but his Jax split push in S3 had been an important factor. NXG would focus on top lane split pushing next, and more clashes with Damu would help Songyuan improve. Practice matches were helpful, but match replays could teach a lot too. Draft for training games didn't usually ban meta champions unless requested. Gangplank, Garen, and Galio were all available. NXG on blue side picked a standard push and group comp: Kennen top, Jarvan jungle, Orianna mid, and Caitlyn plus Janna bot. The plan was clear: use Caitlyn and Janna's lane pressure to quickly chip turrets, then have top, mid, and jungle collapse on bot to convert turret gold into items for the carries. In the mid-game, 2 items on Kennen plus Jarvan initiation could control fights. It was a classic S3 composition requiring tight coordination. SKT's draft showed a nascent lineup: Renekton top, Elise jungle, Gragas mid, and Ezreal plus Lulu bot. They chose Lulu over Sona, opting for lane safety and Ezreal's versatility. In the early game, just focus on laning and reduce lane swaps, Jiang Ming said as SKT locked in Gragas for their final pick. He glanced at the spectator station in the training room. "All right, Mingyi, let's go, brothers." Pang Ran gave his usual pep talk in voice chat, his signature for both official and practice matches. After the brief loading delay, the OB screen came up. Both sides were laning normally. This best of 5 wasn't for testing level 1 cheese. In training, teams generally avoided highly uncertain level 1 tactics. Jiang Ming adjusted the default camera toward bot. The unknown mid-jungler combo from T2 didn't offer much learning value for Shito and him. Top and bot mattered more. They auto-attacked the jungle monsters fewer times. Are they going for level 1 pressure? Jiang Ming observed. Watching the enemy duo walk toward lane with weapons drawn, he quickly understood Xu Jing's line of thought. Caitlyn and Janna have long range. If they could apply enough pressure at level 1, they could secure the lane later. Clatter, Caitlyn's auto hit a low-health minion and snagged gold. 2 other minions dropped into execute range. Xu Jing instinctively fired again. Piltover Peacemaker sliced the rift. Zhu Rang, stepping into the wave to last hit, frowned. The enemy Caitlyn's mechanics were silky smooth. Not only did she pick up 3 low-health minions at once, she also used the edge of her ability to poke me during my last hit animation. Whoosh! Ezreal's basic attack took the melee minion, and his mystic shot flew toward the blue AD. Thud! The projectile struck, but a white shield blossomed above Caitlyn and negated the damage entirely. "Why are you taking Q damage right away, old Zhu?" "Not warmed up," Pang Ran asked, having cast E to shield his AD. Getting hit by Mystic Shot so early was dangerous. Its short cooldown and decent damage meant a high hit rate could negate Caitlyn's range advantage. "I was predicted," Xu Jing said, his smile fading. He now appreciated the OGN duo Jiang Ming had highlighted for extremely strong laning ability. They were indeed sharp. Managing to counterattack after Xu Jing tried to manipulate the wave and poke was better than any AD he'd faced in the qualifiers. Xu Jing and Pang Ran realized the opponents demanded respect, but they still had to build advantages. Meanwhile, on the other side of the lane, Zhu Rang and Fu Man duo felt stung. Not only had Caitlyn instantly secured 3 minions and poked him, but Ezreal's Mystic Shot had been perfectly blocked by Janna's shield, and the ensuing damage was then converted into a Caitlyn headshot on Lulu. "These two have great synergy," Zhu Rang muttered. Fu Man duo, recalling Janna's positioning, added, "Her placement was like she predicted your next move." In these few seconds at level 1, can they really calculate our reaction? Zhu Rang sounded incredulous. "Back off. Caitlyn's Q will hit the wave. We won't get level 2 first." The bot lane agreed to play more cautiously. While bot showed what professional level 1 duo design looked like, the top lanes were trading as well. Song Yuan, however, found himself having a harder time in pure mechanical exchanges. Damn it, he can control the distance like that. Song Yuan was frustrated. Renekton kept a perfect attack range and used occasional EQ combos that telegraphed kill intent. Mingyi was right. Some people are just naturally talented. They can do what months of my training can't match. Not buying it. I'm long range against short range, and I've trained kiting to death. I can't lose to a small Renekton like you. Damu fell silent at that, amused. Sungwung, find an opportunity to help me gank, Song Yuan asked his jungler. Benji glanced up, surprised at the pressure. Is it that bad? Yes, Kennen's fundamentals are too crisp. He's freezing and making it hard for me. If I try to avoid poke, I'll miss CS. If you don't come, my last hits will suffer. Damu watched the Yordle shuttle in and out of the bushes and, true to the top laner virtue of preferring a jungle assist to a stubborn duel, asked the jungler for help. The coach had been right. This NXG team from the LPL was terrifyingly strong. Not because of outlandish mechanical genius, but because their laning phase detail and discipline were unmatched. Chapter 78, Coma. Is JM hoping I'll praise him? As the training match carried on, both teams' breathing quickened involuntarily, each side stunned by the other's performance. Inside NXG's training room, the 5 young players sat glued to their screens, pupils trembling slightly. Fresh off a perfect run in qualifiers and a rapid exit from the preseason, they were suddenly facing a gap in talent ripped open by SKT's second team. In the top lane, Song Yuan bit his lower lip as he typed. His Kennen hadn't been able to keep SKT's Renekton down in lane. It was only thanks to better vision and 2 perfectly timed ganks from the Prince, drawn into the fight along with the enemy jungler, that Song Yuan scraped out a small lead in turrets and levels. Still, to give up now would be useless training. Bottom was similar. Repeated harassment from Mystic Shot had Xu Jing sitting forward in his chair, knuckles whitening on his mouse. Despite the unfavorable matchup of Ezreal and Lulu, Zhu Rang used superior laning to disrupt Xu Jing's Caitlyn's tower-pushing rhythm. Their fundamentals were almost identical, but Zhu Rang read plays and executed small details more cleanly. NXG felt what it was like to meet talent monsters. SKT, meanwhile, was being decisively outplayed by the counterintuitive tactics Jiang Ming had drilled into NXG: cause and effect reversal, coordinated rotations, and surgical focus. 7 minutes in, with advantages in mid and bot, Prince soloed the first dragon. At 9 minutes, the bot lane rotated top and 4 NXG members collapsed on the top lane. After catching and killing Damu's Renekton, they took the outer top turret. At 13 minutes, the first full team fight broke out. SKT walked into a textbook ambush. Kennen flanked, combining with Prince and Orianna for devastating AoE damage. Caitlyn finished the stragglers for a full wipe. By 21 minutes, after all 3 outer turrets were gone and SKT's jungle had been overrun, the purple side typed GG in public chat. Sigh. The vision was misdirection. The mid-jungle synergy was too fast. Fuman Duo and the others couldn't respond. The biggest gap is still teamfight coordination. We fall apart at the slightest touch. Their focus is just too clean. And wave management. Every dragon fight we lost so many minions because our lanes were always behind. In the SKT training room, Coma had risen from his chair without noticing and was crumpling the corner of his tactical board. A knocked-over water bottle rolled to Fuman Duo's feet with a gurgle, but the support sat frozen, staring at the gray screen, murmuring to himself. Coma's face was a constant flip between worry and excitement. One moment frustrated by his team's fragility in fights, the next thrilled because he'd spotted a key point. The match had unfolded exactly as he'd expected. SKT's T2 could contend with NXG during laning, but after a certain moment when NXG started moving as a cohesive unit, T2 shattered like glass. Strengthening mid is the top priority, Coma said aloud. The second team's mid had been dominated by Orianna, which let NXG's mid and jungle roam. If SKT had a mid laner who could suppress the opponent, or better yet, outclass them, that would cripple NXG's linked playstyle. Coma hadn't forgotten that JM, sitting in the coach's seat and also NXG's mid laner, was the strongest player on the team. Only with JM in mid did NXG reach their maximum strength. As he thought this, an image of a young player he'd stumbled across on a domestic streaming platform last week flashed through his mind. But he also knew other teams were looking. KT's contacting them too, someone mentioned, and Coma muttered, "Everything has to go through approvals. By then, it might be too late." That day, Jiang Ming had pushed the training to its limits. The first match was normal. The second imposed lineup restrictions. The third forbade multi-positional linkages so they could train pure mechanics. Coma didn't fully get NXG's scenario-based drills, but supported them. Apart from mid and jungle, SKT saw no huge gaps in other roles. If they kept training, they could learn the opponent's systems. Out of 5 scrims, NXG won 4 and lost 1. In the lone loss, Jiang Ming had insisted on a pure mechanical showdown. No strategies, no lane swaps. 5-on-5, head-on. The result was brutal and obvious. Without their scripted advantages and when raw skill alone decided the outcome, the NXG5, despite growth, showed a clear gap against true prodigies. As SKT learned NXG's playstyle and the NXG players had to rely on mechanical ability alone, their control broke and panic set in. Song Yuan got solo killed by Damu, Shujing's stable farming was repeatedly disrupted, and the jungle's rhythm collapsed. For the first time, Shi Zhenyu felt the disorientation his past opponents had described. The five went into the VOD review from confident to numb. Esports was ruthless. Effort could set your lower bound, but the ceiling was defined by talent. Months of sweat could be shrugged off in 1 or 2 games by a genuine genius. Around 9 that night, after the solo matches, Zhang Ming messaged Koma to end the day's session. Koma replied immediately. Koma, today's scrim was very fruitful. Thanks. I hope our teams can keep long-term scrim cooperation. Scrims are fine. What do you think of my NXG player's talent? Koma blinked at the question. After a day of training, especially the solo rounds, he had a sense of NXG's players. But how to answer? Should he praise them? Be honest? He hesitated, then typed carefully, "The five have excellent potential, especially under your coaching. The team's overall strength is formidable." His next thought, saying they were just ordinary among geniuses, stayed untyped. Zhang Ming's reply was a string of question marks. Koma's fingers hovered. Of course JM, who'd discovered and developed these players, would be the most certain of their talent. A part of him thought, "Are you trying to get me to flatter you?" He glanced back at his dejected squad, who sat staring blankly. The final solo segment had hit them hard, not because they lost, but because they'd been forced to confront how far they had to go. "How could this be?" Zhurang muttered, lying back in his chair. "If their individual skill isn't better than ours, why are they stronger as a team?" "They're drilled," Damu said slowly. "Their rotations, mid-top jungle synergy, it's like they all share one instinct. It's the kind of teamwork you only see in LPL. "Coach, can we learn that playstyle?" someone asked. Koma realized the players were struggling with acceptance. Yes, it's possible to coach grinders into elite players, and the coach's skill shows in developing mediocre talent. But when you face raw talent that seems to transcend months of training, it's different. He tried clarifying in chat. You've coached them into promising players. Their potential is real. Zhang Ming's reaction on the other end was a mix of annoyance and amusement. He wanted to grab Koma and shake some pride into him. Was he supposed to be humbly praising a future superstar? But the exchange ended lightheartedly, and Zhang Ming rose to address his team. This week had been a roller coaster for NXG, internet attention and adoring fans on one hand, and a sobering reality check against SKT's talent on the other. That emotional swing was a crucible. After the VOD review, the five came to Zhang Ming asking for a day off. Already discouraged? Zhang Ming smiled. Didn't we always know where we stood? After months of work, some ranks you couldn't reach before have fallen to you. Now you've met people with greater talent, and that's normal. Does every loss mean you give up? Or do you accept your shortcomings and keep training? He reminded them he'd asked for the final mechanical-only match, specifically so they could learn where they truly were and what to improve. You've only been professional for a few months. Innate talent is fixed, but effort is limitless. Overcome limited talent with boundless effort. That's youth. A day off was approved. Consider it the last break before the season, and Zhang Ming watched his five head out for barbecue, feeling both relieved and proud. The online frenzy that had threatened to derail their focus had been tamped down through his steady guidance and the team's own adjustments. With their mindset realigned, their training became more efficient. Tactical innovations were implemented more smoothly, and the whole team progressed faster. A week before the LPL regular season began, the league released the double round-robin single-game schedule. On March 16th, while WE and IG would rekindle their rivalry in the opener, NXG, this year's internet darling, was also slotted on the first day. Their first opponent, Royal Never Give Up, fresh off second place at the TGA Grand Prix Winter Finals. Chapter 79. The Yan Kingdom map can be longer. Please give monthly votes. Next, I'm going to run you through some standardized post-match interview training. Fu Ying stood in the middle of the NXG team's training room in a plain suit, calmly watching the teenagers gathered there. She was a third-year student in broadcast and hosting at Jinling University, doing this part-time job at the request of her junior, Zhang Ming, from the Economics and Management College, and on the recommendation of a teacher. Think of it like sports interviews. What you say and how you say it after a match needs to be polished. So they're just a bunch of kids, 16, 17, basically high schoolers. No wonder they need systematic coaching. When Fu Ying first heard she was supposed to standardize players' post-match interview responses, she thought it was strange. Since when did answering reporters need training? Then she realized these boys were fresh out of junior high with little real-world experience. Without guidance, interviews could become disasters. Everyone, don't feel pressured. The host will usually run through the questions with you before the interview, she said. Our job is to make sure your wording, your posture, and your answers are appropriate and composed. First, language and communication. We're not asking for anything fancy, just clear thinking and fluent expression. Try to avoid verbal tics, long pauses, or repeating yourself. Make sure the host and the audience can follow you. Control your volume and pace. Don't blow into the mic. Don't speak so fast people can't catch you, and don't drone on so slowly you lose everyone. Zhang Ming leaned against the doorframe, watching quietly. He'd hired Lin Sheiji, who was handling the players' image management training, for a few hundred yuan, and now he watched both sessions with a calculating eye. As team manager, he was deliberately grooming his players into esports celebrities, appearance, clothing, but crucially, words and actions. The post-match interview was prime real estate for building public image. He didn't want anyone stumbling over a line, saying something immature, or offering an offhand comment like, "I want to prove I'm the best jungler in the world," or worse. The wrong word at the wrong time could destroy momentum. So after the LPL made post-match interviews routine, Jiang Ming immediately hired professionals. Broadcast hosting classes were often treated as electives by outsiders. Some came to see pretty men and women, others for practical skills. These 5 young players, surprisingly, accepted the training without complaint. Maybe it was because they dropped out of junior high and felt insecure. When they learned the material was legitimate university elective content, they paid attention. Fu Ying focused on general interview skills, body language, attire, demeanor, while Zhang Ming planned to add game-specific Q&A training later, letting the players talk about their understanding of the match, in-game decisions, and tactical review. Once their skill and confidence improved, they might even be able to string together a few memorable sound bites. After a while, Lin Sheiji returned with a courier, accompanied by Zhou Shu, and Zhang Ming left the training room briefly. "Whoa, that box is huge. What's in it?" asked Lin Jingyi, who was helping out, wiping sweat from her neck. Zhou Shu set the heavy box down with a dull thud. Curiosity flared. With Zhang Ming's amused encouragement, Lin Jingyi grabbed a utility knife and sliced through the tape. She flipped the lid up in one quick motion. "Ah, no way! What are these?" she exclaimed. Inside were fan support items. A4-sized hand banners, palm-sized stickers, uninflated red and white light sticks, and more. Jiang Ming produced a small folding fan printed with the team's official photos on the front and the NXG team logo in an inkwash style on the back. "I rushed these from the factory for NXG team's first LPL opening match," he said. "But who's going to buy them? Shueiji, you're somewhat popular with players, but NXG team doesn't have a fan base yet ready to spend money on merch." Lin Jingyi knew merchandise needed demand. NXG wasn't there yet. "Who said we were going to sell them?" Zhang Ming toyed with the fan, fanning himself. During the early fan accumulation stage, giveaways are better. It doesn't cost much to hand these out. "And besides," he added, grinning, "they're cheap to produce. I'll sell a couple more boxes of pork jerky on my live stream and cover the cost." "How do you want to distribute them? Just give them away online?" Lin Jingyi asked, thinking of Zhang Ming's non-stop live stream schedule. Some of the smaller items, fans, masks, t-shirts, will raffle online. The rest will hand out at the venue. Zhang Ming explained his plan. Hire a few university students with good looks and temperament to work the venue. They'd set up an NXG poster at ticket check-in and hand out items to people who followed NXG team's social accounts. The gifts would be tiered. Basic gifts for casual followers, better ones for people who post about the team or show active support, and special sets for the earliest core fans who joined the preseason group. We've already got a few university students who pre-booked seats when the LPL tickets went on sale last week, Zhang Ming said. They have time and enthusiasm. He explained the mechanics to Lin Sheiji. When it came to fan management, he knew his stuff. It'll be easy to find student part-timers. I'll post a notice in the group, Lin Jingyi replied. Also, get at least one outgoing, hyped-up guy to work the crowd. Pays good. March 16, 2013. Taikang Loft Industrial Design Park, Suzhou. 2 hours before the LPL opening match, and a steady stream of young people already filled the plaza outside. The crowd kept turning toward one spot, the NXG team booth. The sun beat down with an early spring scorch. On the booth's truss, Yu Xiaotang stood on tiptoe to smooth the last poster into place. The silver-blue NXG team emblem gleamed in the sunlight. Fluorescent bracelets, team badges, hand banners, and other support goods were neatly displayed. The team slogan, "Dreams as wings, ride the wind forward," fluttered in the breeze. "Stack the hand banners into 3 piles here," Yu Xiaotang told her partner Su Xiao. "If they're all together, distribution gets messy." The two wore jackets with NXG team printed in hot silver across the backs. Su Xiao adjusted a small light box at the corner of the table. Blue and white LED strips intertwined into the team's flame logo, catching the eyes of passersby. "NXG team?" A boy in a red hoodie asked, examining the display. He had a WE team support badge pinned to his chest. Others drifted over, curious. "We're half and half," Yu Xiaotang said, smiling and shaking a fluorescent bracelet. "We're members of a self-organized fan club, and the team entrusted us to hand out these items for free today." Free? A ripple of interest passed through the crowd. The venue entrance was just across from them, and a steady stream of young men and women had gathered. Seeing the NXG booth, many stopped to look. Follow our official Weibo or participate in relevant esports forum discussions, and you can get a free support gift, Yu Xiaotang called out. Su Xiao waved a support fan high. The blue and white tassels drew a neat arc in the sunlight. "Our official account, yes, you can follow it now." A girl in a JK skirt, excited, reached for her wallet. "I followed the preseason account already," she said, but Yu Xiaotang piled the whole set of support items into her arms. "It's free. Scan the QR code and join the NXG fan group if you can. Fans who followed us during preseason are old fans. There's an extra set for you." The crowd stirred. If the giveaways were only stickers or banners, it might not be enough to tempt other teams' fans. But the small, nicely made hand fans made the difference. Free merch was free merch. Once one person followed and received a gift, others, curious or simply unwilling to pass up something free, pulled out their phones and followed the NXG account on the spot, becoming temporary fans. NXG's preseason reputation as a strong new team, plus Zhang Ming's identity as JM, the creator of a mountain of league tutorial videos, gave casual players a familiar reason to try out the team. "Let's get an NXG support gift," someone called. "Weren't you coming to watch the WE match with me?" a boy in the crowd asked his girlfriend, baffled. "You were a die-hard WE fan last week, saving allowance to watch them live," she teased. "Now you'll give up all that for a cheap fan?" "Not exactly. I just really like that NXG fan," she said, hinting. "Your roommate watches JM's streams. Ask him if he wants the rest of the set. I only want the fan." The boy hesitated, then joined the line. When he reached the table, he explained, "My roommate watches JM's live streams but couldn't come. Can I get a set for him?" He produced a screenshot of a live stream link he'd shared in the dorm last year. "If this works, I'll treat you to a meal." "No problem," Su Xiao smiled. "We verify whether the fan genuinely follows NXG team. A loyal JM viewer counts as a longtime fan, so they qualify." "That's allowed?" a long-haired girl asked eagerly. She stepped forward, showing a photo on her phone. "I went to the preseason live stream in Modu and even took a photo with Ming Gay after the match. I'm in the fan support group too." Yu Xiaotang and Su Xiao exchanged a quick look. They couldn't exactly tell hardcore fans that they'd only put on the uniforms this morning. Lin Jingyi had prepared them for this. "We just didn't have time to organize formal activities earlier," Yu Xiaotang said. "NXG team just formed recently, and our fan base is small." Su Xiao pulled a jacket from a bag and held it up. But Mingi said anyone from the fan support group who comes to the venue today can get a team jersey. Consider it a surprise. Wow! The long-haired girl squealed, almost jumping with excitement. The plaza buzzed louder as more people scanned QR codes and followed NXG Team, turning the giveaway into a small, growing wave of fans. Chapter 80. Dressed in a suit, imitating an adult. I wanted to buy one the day NXG's official Weibo posted the promo photos, but JM's shop never stocked them, the long-haired girl said, sounding a little pleased and a little smug. Under the surprised and envious looks around her, she slipped on the women's team uniform NXG had prepared. It fits really well, and the design is nice. Unlike the usual celebrity merch that looks good but feels cheap, Jiang Ming had clearly considered practicality when designing these. He'd made separate cuts for men's and women's jerseys and used better fabrics for comfort, without hiking the price. Most of the apparel in the online store came from a factory in Jiangsu and Zhejiang. Jiang Ming had simply taken standard factory styles and tweaked them. As a good client who'd been working with them for months and paid promptly, he'd convinced the factory to improve the quality while holding the price steady. Click. The girl raised her phone and took a selfie, then quickly edited the photo and posted it to NXG's team support group. Little V, look what I'm wearing? This high-tier game. No way, NXG's team uniform. Are they already selling them? That actually looks pretty good. Looks like Little Vi went to Suzhou to watch the game. Little Vi replied, hey, didn't buy it from the online store. The NXG shop didn't have this item. I came to the live match today and the NXG staff were handing out free support gifts near the entrance. People who came to the preseason got team uniforms. Free? That single sentence set the chat on fire. The group was a cacophony of disbelief and jealousy. No way, aren't you guys going to explain? Brother, I'm sincere and you're toying with me, without even a notice. You didn't sell them, now you're just giving them away, and we get none. Little V, wait for me. I'm near Taikang. I'm coming. Godfather, help me grab one. Little V laughed and turned off her phone. After politely asking the two staff handing out merchandise if they needed help and being waved off, she walked toward the ticket entrance. Soon, the long ticket line had more and more people wearing NXG support items, led by Little V in the women's uniform. Paired with oversized official player promo posters placed at the entrance, it looked from afar like the whole crowd had come for NXG. Those who'd arrived earlier and missed the freebies sulked, glaring at their tatty WE banners as they watched NXG fans get pampered. Over here, NXG fans, if you bought seats in Section B, let's gather, shouted a tall, muscular man near the arena entrance. He looked like an athlete, broad-shouldered, wearing a blue and white NXG headband and waving a flag with the team logo. When the players come out and the match starts, if anyone wants to cheer with me, try to sit together, okay? Zhao Yang grinned, flashing an absurdly white smile. He had been hired to lead the cheering. Jiang Ming had brought him in from the school's sports department at a healthy price to act as a support captain and get the shy crowd to cheer. While NXG worked hard to build their fan base, the inaugural LPL opener was already underway, WE versus IG. The lineups were familiar: top PDD versus Wii's Cao Mei, jungle Clearlove versus Visible Shadow, mid Zitai versus Ruo Feng, and bottom Wei Xiao and Zhuan Mao versus Mr. 433 and Fang Kuai Long, the support notorious for clumsy plays before level 6. Watching the IG promo photos on the big screen while sipping water backstage, Jiang Ming almost spat water across the room at Lin Sheiji. Compared with Wii's handsome Cao Mei and Wei Xiao, the early league's poster boys, IG's 5 looked like a misfit collection of fat and thin, balding and awkward. No wonder first-gen IG never quite beat Wii in popularity, he muttered. Popularity aside, IG's first generation was often stronger individually than Bui. PDD was a top laner of national caliber. Despite the meme at the end of his career, he was still terrifying in lane during the S3 meta. Wei Xiao and Huan Mao held a natural advantage over Kid and Xiao Xiao in the bot lane. But in mid-jungle, Ruo Feng and Ming Kai tended to outskill Zitai and Visible Shadow, and losing mid-jungle more often than not decided matches. With 2 out of 3 lanes falling behind, especially mid-jungle, the opener's outcome felt inevitable. The game ended at 31 minutes, IG taking the win, to the chagrin of Bui's fans. Wei Xiao had played Twitch well, 6-2, and lived up to his world's best AD title, but IG had outfarmed everyone on the purple side. Kid's Varus, a perceived weakness, still managed 79 damage. Rumble and Cassiopeia's ultimate threat zones made it hard for Twitch to find space in teamfights. Xiao Xiao had even picked up a wild support strategy Jiang Ming had used on stream, Lulu paired with Volibear, using mobility and knockups to help IG hunt down E's main carries. As for Ruofeng's Diana in mid, it was a performance best left unmentioned. Kid held his nerve. IG's top, mid, and jungle were on point, commentator Xiaolu declared. Congrats to IG for winning the opening match. Next up, two newly formed teams face off, Royal Club, TGA Winter Champions versus Nexus Vanguard. Jiangming straightened his suit jacket and led the 5 NXG players out of the lounge to their first match in the LPL arena. As they walked through the tunnel, the crowd roared. NXG, rise up! NXG, go! The muscular man waved the NXG flag, and a few earnest cheers followed. The rest of the crowd sounded more reserved, exactly as planned. Song Yuan, the straightforward top laner, still believed in the sincerity of those cheers. He and the others straightened involuntarily, stepping taller and prouder as they approached the player booths, carried on a strange wave of excitement. Jiang Ming smiled inwardly, silently chuckling at the whole scene. NXG's players are at the booths. Now welcome Royal Club, announced the host Wawa, who'd somehow snuck into the stands and slipped into his role, warming up the crowd. The arena suddenly fell, as silent as if someone had hit pause. All eyes turned to the Royal Club tunnel. Jiang Ming, busy finalizing equipment with his players, glanced over and froze. Then he burst out laughing. It was worse than the IG promo photos. Royal Club's top laner, Shen Chao, walked out wearing a suit. He looked like a man trying to wear his girlfriend's jacket. The shoulders sagged 3 centimeters below his collarbone, the cuffs swallowed half his hands, and the jacket formed 2 ridiculous radial creases across his back, as if half turtle shells had been sewn on each side. He stared at the camera, awkward and mortified. I told you not to copy NXG. Wearing a suit to imitate Coach JM, it's embarrassing, someone murmured. Oh, Tabby's formal wear is at home, and you're the only one with a suit right now. Since we have a guest coach role, just play along. If we don't have a coach, it looks cheap. Waite, the instigator who suggested a coach position in the first place, said with a chuckle. Look, only us and NXG have coaches. It'll draw attention. But it feels like the attention might be for the wrong reasons, Shen Chao muttered. Trust me, brother, I'm the #1 male idol in esports, Waite replied confidently. They had a point. Royal Club's stunt, putting their top laner in a suit to mimic a coach, definitely attracted attention. It just wasn't the glamorous reaction they wanted. The live stream chat exploded. No way, what is Royal Club's top laner wearing? I'm sorry, I can't stop laughing. Are they trying to copy JM? But didn't Royal Club say their support handles shot calls in the TGA Finals interview? JM in a suit looks like a successful person, posh and calm, absolute threat. But Royal Club, that jacket doesn't even fit. I can't breathe, laughing so hard. The comments snowballed into an avalanche of memes and mockery. Within minutes, the second match had shot up the hot search list and the viewership climbed. Royal Club's suit gag had become the internet's new punchline. Ahem, prepare for ban pick. Jiang Ming rubbed his jaw, sore from laughing, and forced his focus to the screen. The idea of mimicking a coach wasn't inherently wrong. The twist that Royal Club had a player playing the part and had chosen the least flattering man for the role made it gold for entertainment. In the end, if esports provided anything, it was never a lack of surprises. Unable to see their opponents from the booths, NXG's players didn't know what had set Jiang Ming off laughing so much, but team discipline kept their curiosity in check. He spread out his tactical notebook and briefed them. Today's opponent is Royal Club. Their core carries are mid and bottom. Top laner Shen Chao isn't a joke either. The AD carry, Uzi, has a very distinctive style. He's good at kiting and using auto-attack range to pressure in lane. Jiang Ming listed specific habits and champion preferences. His management strength came from a very particular advantage, his understanding of the meta, sharper than his era might suggest. Game versions shifted constantly. What was dominant one season could be exposed the next. He'd studied countless teams and players, noting their tendencies and weaknesses. Where others needed endless practice and experimentation, he already had the answers. His insight meant NXG was rarely outdrafted in band pick, and their tactical drills based on version research were always ahead. In esports, that kind of foresight was a huge edge. Oh ho, an AD who likes to play aggressively in lane, Jing, your bot lane better not blow up again, Top Song Yuan teased, checking his gear. If you get caught, call for your top lane dad, I'll come help. Jing had been schooled in a practice match against SKT, where Piglet had hammered him in the later drills. As friends who loved to needle each other, Song Yuan didn't let the chance slip. They took their positions, focused and ready, the league's first full day already proving that professional play could be as much about showmanship as it was about skill. Who knew what the rest of the season would bring, with NXG and 1,000 unpredictable players stirring the pot?